Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes. What I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Tuesday, July 1st, 2025. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The United States Senate has passed Donald Trump's sweeping tax and spending plan called the Big, Ugly, Dangerous Bill. Guess what? Massive Medicaid cuts, massive cuts to food assistance, generous support for the rich and corporations. We got a lot of folks to be talking to today, including Ken Martin, who runs the Democratic National Committee. We're talking to Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott, Ohio Congresswoman Shontel Brown, and Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Lots for us to unpack on today's show. Folks, it's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being evenly divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative. The bill as amended is passed.
Folks, after a contentious several days, the United States Senate, the Republican majority there passed by a 51-50 vote. Donald Trump's big, ugly, dangerous bill. They call it the big, beautiful bill, but the reality is when you look at what it does, that is simply not the case. Democrats forced an entire reading of this particular bill. 3 Republicans voted against the bill. Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Senator Susan Collins of Maine, but the critical vote, Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska voted for the bill because of things that she got for her state of Alaska. It now goes to the United States House, where they have to reconcile the Senate changes. It previously passed the House. More than likely, it is going to pass. Donald Trump will sign it into law. This is a hugely unpopular bill. Even the Fox News poll shows nearly 60% of Americans against this bill. Republicans don't care because Donald Trump wants it. Joining us right now is Ken Martin. He is the chair of the Democratic National Committee. Glad to have you back on the show, Chairman Martin. First and foremost, it was a battle there in the Senate and now it goes to the House. But I got to ask you this here because I had a problem with this the other day. Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, Democrat, was complaining that he was missing his beach time with his family, and this is just a waste that Democrats are doing. He's going to vote no. That makes no sense to me. My deal is, hey, man, you're getting paid to be there. Stay there. Meet with those Republicans. Try to convince them to vote against it. This is all hands on deck. This ain't time to be going to the beach. This is about cuts that are going to impact low-income people, working-class people, food, Medicaid. You need everybody in your party fighting against this.
Well, absolutely. And first off, Roland, thanks for having me on tonight. And you're absolutely right. We need everyone in this fight right now at this moment. This is one of the most damaging bills that we've seen in over a half a century. As you mentioned, it's one of the most unpopular bills. But unfortunately, the damage it's going to do to communities far and wide is tremendous. And it requires every one of us to do our damn job, to show up. You know, whether you're a member of the Senate, whether you're a member of the House, whether you're elected at all, everyone right now should be rising up in unison with one voice saying what we're seeing out of Congress right now is unacceptable. And so, you know, I have no patience for Democrats who serve in any elected office right now in this moment when there are so many lives that are going to be shattered as a consequence of this big, ugly, dangerous bill, as you called it. It requires all of us to do everything we can right now to stop it dead in its tracks.
When you start breaking this thing down, Republicans keep saying, oh, no, we're not cutting Medicaid. Their own Senator Tom Tillis broke it down on the floor saying that's a lie. They are indeed cutting Medicaid. And what I don't understand, look, I'm purposely wearing this shirt right here. This is the Yellow Jackets, West Virginia State University. It's an HBCU. I was there in Charleston, West Virginia. West Virginia is one of those states where you have a lot of I just cut to the chase, broke, illiterate, bad health, largely white conservatives. They keep voting for Republicans, voting against their interests. Places like West Virginia are going to be hurt by this bill. Alabama, where you got 2 Republican senators, they're going to be hurt by this bill. Mississippi, hurt by this bill. South Carolina, hurt by this bill. But those Republican senators don't care. They're voting for the massive tax cuts for the rich and corporations.
Well, that's exactly right, Roland. And look, I call it the big ugly betrayal. The reality is the Republicans have betrayed the American people. I want you to think about this as it relates to working people in this country. And we know this from the national building trades who came out opposed to this. This bill is going to cost 1.75 million jobs. This is one of the biggest job killing bills we've seen in recent memory. As it relates to seniors, they betrayed our seniors. Over a quarter of nursing homes are actually going to close because of this bill. They betrayed our children. We know that there are many children out there who rely on nutrition programs, who are starving already, who are going to starve even more because Republicans have betrayed them. They betrayed our seniors. Think about this. Over a quarter of nursing homes in this country right now, as I mentioned, are going to close down. They have betrayed the disabled in this country. 17 million people are going to be kicked off of their health insurance, off of health care. Many of those folks are disabled. They betrayed rural communities. 300 hospitals, many of them in rural communities, are going to close down. And they betrayed the Black community. 40% of the Black community receives Medicaid in some form, and they're going to be kicked off of their health care. 2/3 of births in the Black community are provided with some form of Medicaid. And of course, that's going to be impacted now. So I say all of this because it has dramatic impacts all throughout this country, in rural communities and suburban communities and urban communities across the country. This is going to be a devastating bill. And that's why you see widespread opposition. It's not just Democrats who are opposed or independent voters. It's even Republican voters. This is the most unpopular bill in the history of this country, and we still have time to defeat it. If folks want to get involved right now in helping the Democratic Party defeat this bill, you can text SUMMER, SUMMER, to 43367 and join us in our efforts to organize against this destructive bill.
One of the things that jumps out, I'm a firm believer in not wasting energy, not wasting time. First, before I get to that, the point that you just made there, the electricians in this country, IBEW, go to my iPad, Elise, they released their statement blasting this bill, talking about how it's going to hurt them. Same thing. You mentioned the National North America Building Trades Union. But let me just go ahead and cut to the chase here, Chairman Martin. A whole bunch of the white men in these unions, they voted for Trump. They voted for Trump because they said they were down with MAGA. And I keep making this point that, listen, Democrats are going to have some real, frank, honest conversations with white people in this country who vote against their interests. Now, as an African-American, conservatives love telling me, I don't understand, what have black people gotten from Democrats in the last 60 years? You voting against your own interests. 70% of the people who voted in the last election, white Americans. And these folks, steel workers, build trade unions, electricians, all sitting here going, Trump, Trump, Trump. Now they're crying because all of those construction jobs for clean energy, those multi-million-dollar plants that look in the bill, these companies are saying, we're not going to build them now because we don't have any certainty from the federal government. So when it comes to EVs, when it comes to solar, technology created by Americans, and they keep saying, we don't want China to dominate, this is going to guarantee China to dominate. How do you tell your party, your members in the House, in the Senate, on the state level, on the county, on the city level, that they're going to have to look some folk in the eye that look like you and not me and say, why do you keep voting against your interests when we're the ones, being Democrats, who are passing the bills that actually affect their lives for the better?
Well, I think you said it best. We got to be honest and have those honest conversations, because guess what? Donald Trump promised those very same voters that you're talking about that he was going to improve their lives. He was going to make their lives more affordable. He was actually going to make a difference in their communities, and he's done none of that. Actually, this bill he is pushing forward to help his already rich friends, the richest people in this country, who are going to benefit from massive tax breaks at the expense of working people, at the expense of people who voted for Donald Trump, who thought that he actually had their best interests in mind, who thought that he would actually deliver for their families and for their communities. He's done none of that. He is essentially making your life much more difficult, all to give a tax break to those who already have so much in our communities and so much in society. It's just plain wrong. And we do have to. You're absolutely right. There are many people who are in this country who have and continue to vote against their own economic self-interest. And let me tell you something. You know what? We can continue to talk until we're blue in the face, but unfortunately, these very people who are going to be impacted, their lives are going to be devastated. And hopefully they start to wake up and they look in the mirror and say, you know what, maybe it wasn't the right thing for us to vote for Donald Trump and these Republicans who've shown no interest in any step of the way here. And it's not just Donald Trump, by the way. It's all of the Republicans who voted for this, which is almost every single one of them voted against their constituents. And you can be damn sure that we're going to remind those constituents in every Republican congressional district and in every Republican Senate race next year, we're going to remind their constituents that their member of Congress or their member in the U.S. Senate voted against them and their families.
So right now, I got a couple more minutes with you. So right now, in terms of the plan, what I say to folks, it's the waste of energy right now if you're trying to call your Democratic officials. Go to the House. You got about 12 to 17 House seats that are purple or places that Biden won. Are y'all targeting those members? Are you saying, because look, it barely passed the House the first time. So what is the strategy here? What are you saying to people how they should be channeling their energy? Who are the 5 or 10 Republican House members that people should be calling and emailing and hitting right now saying, don't you dare vote for this bill? Do y'all have the names?
Well, listen, if you text SUMMER, SUMMER to 43367, you sign up to help us right now, because we're targeting 35 congressional districts right now to make sure that we're increasing the pressure on those vulnerable Republicans. And the thing is, Roland, you know, where we started out probably with a more a smaller and narrower list of targets at the beginning of this year, we have been able to expand out that map because we're seeing there's wind at our back right now that this bill is highly unpopular. And of course, as a result of us overperforming, it means that we can actually focus our efforts on more Republicans around the country. 35 Republicans right now are in vulnerable districts, and we want to put all of our effort into turning the pressure up in those districts to make sure that they get the message that, you know what, you better vote the right way on this, because if you don't, we're coming for your job and we're going to boot you out of your out of office.
So I say at 13 to 17. So you're saying there are 35 Republican House seats that y'all are targeting to get them to vote no against this bill.
That's right.
And so just for folks to know, if you text SUMMER to 43367, give me a second so I can show this, because I literally just did it. So hold on one second. And so this is, if you go 43367, this is the message you're going to get back. DNC headquarters, thanks for signing up for periodic updates about our work. Keep an eye on your inbox for more soon. And then it says, thank you for stepping up to join organizing SUMMER. Sign up for our kickoff on Wednesday, July 2nd. Only thing I would suggest, Chair, is that message is changed, saying stop the big, ugly, dangerous bill right now. That way it's a lot more immediate language. That's just me. If I'm messaging, I'm probably going to be a little bit more specific and not general.
Well, that's what I like about you, Roland. I appreciate the good advice there. But nonetheless, this will get you involved in our efforts to actually fight against this bill and to make sure that we're turning up the pressure on these Republicans. Don't believe all the pundits. This is not a done deal yet. But the Republicans in the Senate certainly fell in line. We have an opportunity to defeat this in the House right now. So get involved. Roll up your sleeves. If you actually want to see this bill defeated, we still have time to do it. Please join us in our efforts.
Chairman Ken Martin, DNC, we surely appreciate it. Look forward to having you back. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Roland.
Folks, got to go to a break. We come back with my... Also, again, this hour, we have Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott on talking about the impact on cities of this particular bill. We'll also talk to Congresswoman Shontel Brown in the next hour, the impact on Ohio, especially folks when it comes to Medicaid. And Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries will explain to us his strategy on trying to get this bill stopped in the House. Folks, tell your friends and everyone they should be tuning in to Roland Martin Unfiltered. This is the blackest show out here. We're talking about how this is going to impact us. This is no time for games. And so pass the word. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll be right back right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie of A Balanced Life. Think about the men in your life and ask yourself these questions. Who are their male role models? Who can they turn to for advice to learn about what manhood is all about? On our next show, we talk about why male mentoring is so important to men of all ages. Actor Dondre Whitfield leads an all-star cast and panel to answer these and many other probing questions.
A woman can't teach you how to be something that she's not.
That's on the next A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie on Black Star Network.
Me, Sherry Shepard, and you know what you're watching, Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, joining us right now, Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice at the EPA out of D.C., Randy Bryant, entrepreneur, author of Never Say It, 25 Phrases You Should Never Ever Say to Keep Your Job and Friends out of D.C., Joe Richardson, civil rights attorney out of L.A. Glad to have all three of you here. Mustafa, I want to start with you. This bill here, absolutely devastating to environmentalists. Republicans are all about fossil fuels. They are all about these big gas companies. They don't give a damn about electric vehicles. They don't care about any of this sort of stuff. And so they are trying to roll back, even have a tax on stuff already done. And the reason those trade unions and electricians are mad is because there were multi-billion-dollar total manufacturing plants were going to be built. Now all of those are going to come to a halt if they repeal these tax incentives for solar, wind, and other renewable energies.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, you hit it on the head. You know, I looked at some numbers the other day. We spend $1.1 trillion in relationship just to extreme heat and the impacts that have been going on there. So when they make these cuts, they're cutting a number of environmental programs and Department of Energy programs that actually help us to address the climate crisis. They also help us to address the health impacts that are happening inside of our most vulnerable communities. So when we talk about jobs and justice in the environment, all these things actually come together because, as you said, there were all these deals that were put in place to have advanced manufacturing not only come back and be enhanced inside of our country, with the jobs that were a part of all this clean energy work, but it also had the benefit of helping to improve the environment, to improve people's health, and to limit or begin to minimize some of these impacts that are going on. So what this big, big brutal bill has actually done is put a crosshair on folks. They're cutting climate programs, they're cutting clean air programs, they're cutting clean water programs, all the things that are necessary for people to be able to survive, let alone thrive. And they're doing it without any concern for people's lives, for the wealth gap that existed. There are models out there that have been put in place to help in certain areas to address the wealth gaps by bringing manufacturing opportunities and new entrepreneurial actions in place, along with a number of other entities that were going to be in place. So what they continue to do is to weaken. That's not true. They are slashing the social safety net inside of our country, both in this moment and, of course, all the things that we needed to do to get prepared for the impacts that are coming over the next decade.
If you're not a Republican donor, Randy, they don't give a damn about you. It's simple as that there. And look at this here. We talk about those mandates. Here's what's so crazy. Elon Musk now is going against this bill. Elon Musk said, we should create a whole new political party and stop this whole bill. Well, guess what? We tried to tell you. You're the one who backed Trump. You're the one who spent $300 million. You're the one who used Twitter to build up Donald Trump and help him win. And so he was lying to you the whole damn time. His love of electric vehicles. Remember the whole thing in front of the White House that turned into a car dealership? Now Trump puts this on social media. At least go to my iPad. Elon Musk knew long before he so strongly endorsed me for president that I was strongly against the EV mandate. It is ridiculous and was always a major part of my campaign. Electric cars are fine, but not everyone should be forced to own one. Elon may get more subsidy than any human being in history by far, and without subsidies, Elon would probably have to close up shop and head back home to South Africa. No more rocket launches, satellites, or electric car production, and our country would save a fortune. Perhaps we should have Doge take a good hard look at this. Big money to be saved. And so we see exactly what he is saying about that. In fact, that particular point, this fool was walking around with his Gulf of America hat. And this is what he said outside of the White House before flying to Florida for that stupid news conference with the Ice Barbie Kristi Noem in the alligator Alcatraz that Ron DeSantis is building in Florida. Listen to this.
Rest. We got a lot of hostages back, but we're going to talk about that. I don't know. I think we'll have to take a look. We might have to put Doge on Elon. You know what Doge is? Doge is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible? He gets a lot of subsidies, Peter. But Elon's very upset that the EV mandate is going to be terminated. And you know what? When you look at it, not everybody wants an electric car. I don't want an electric car. I want to have maybe the rest. We got a lot of hostages.
He said, I want an electric car, but you claim you bought one in front of the White House. He's full of crap, Randy.
He's absolutely full of crap. We saw the commercial. We talked about it on the show where he was literally pushing the Tesla. And when he talks about that Musk has these subsidies and programs, who gave those to him? I mean, it's really interesting to see how they've turned on each other. I mean, the girls are fighting. It is a cat fight. And, he's even saying he's going to turn Doge against him, which Doge was from Musk. So it is so interesting. And they're really trying to figure out who has what power. But it also shows that Trump is loyal to no one. And so how Republicans who have no money, because you said something powerful when you said they only care about Republican donors. And that's absolutely right. Not Republicans generally, but Republican donors, people who have money, people who can help him and his cause and his billionaire brat pack. And so they don't care about anybody else. And so if he is going to turn his back on Musk, then everyone should pick up that he will absolutely turn his back on them. And they're in trouble. Just like we're feeling it and seeing it, everybody is in big trouble. I was, thinking about today how so many Republicans and Trumplicans backed this bill and are trumpeting it. But there are more people affected by the cuts to Medicaid, more Republicans than are Democrats as a whole, but they still don't even seem to get that. They still are backing him and touting, the benefits of Trump. It's so confusing to me, the level of the lack of knowledge that these people seem to have. And it seems as if Trump is truly their daddy. If Trump says it's good, they believe it's good, and they don't need to research it whatsoever.
Absolutely. The thing here, when you start unpacking this bill, start unpacking the things in it, they literally went back and made more SNAP cuts. You have people in this country, Joe, who are starving, we produce so much food. We are an obese nation, yet we have no problem letting folks starve by saying, oh no, the average $4 or $6 a day that's spent on food boxes for these folks, oh, that's just way too much. We would rather give billions in tax cuts to millionaires and billionaires. We would rather allow these companies to spend even fewer money on taxes as a result. Damn all of you people with food insecurity.
Yeah, I mean, what this bill guarantees is that people on the top will continue to do well. It's that whole trickle-down thing where nothing ever trickles, actually. And meanwhile, there's a whole lot of money going to immigration, customs, and immigration enforcement. $46.5 billion to customs, and then $30 billion to ICE, and so that he can continue this farce of making us safer by shipping out 1 million people this year. And so Medicaid slashed. People are going to die because of this bill. people are not going to have the health care that they need because of this bill on a large scale. And again, and it's going to add to the deficit too. It's not like you're saving money and you're making this cost analysis. Oh, we're saving money. We'll lose a few people. Well, we're saving. No, they can't even say we're saving money. They claim that we are, but we're not saving money. It's going to cost $3 or $4 trillion in the debt ultimately. And so it is a serious problem. And what I'm hoping is that this awakens people of all political hues to really understand once and for all that Trump is not thinking about you at all unless you have major resources, unless you are a direct beneficiary of this bill. And there's just a few people that are. Those are the ones that he's thinking about and nobody else.
Yeah, that's the key. And again, I would love for these people to truly show me how regular and ordinary people are going to benefit from this bill. I've yet to see it, Mustafa.
That's because you can't see it because it doesn't exist. You know, you had started the show giving a shout out to West Virginia State. My family been going there for 100 years. But let's just talk about rural communities real quickly. You know, it is estimated that over 600 rural hospitals across our country will now have to shut their doors. And if you come from rural communities like I do, that means that you've got a great distance to try and travel to be able to find the additional health care you might need. We also have already been talking about all these cuts that are going to happen, you know, to Medicaid and some of the other things in our communities. And in many lower wealth white communities, there's an epidemic that's going on around hypertension. That's going on in relationship to a number of other diabetes, a number of other diseases. So if you can't get to health care because you no longer have the infrastructure that's there because of these cuts, then as Joe said, a whole lot of people are going to die. If you come from a rural community, you understand that when it comes to education, that many of the schools are just barely hanging on by a thread, but now they're going to make all these cuts to education as well. So for all the folks who voted for him, who come from rural communities, or who even didn't vote for him, who come from rural communities, you are also in the crosshairs. They often try and, ghettoize, certain things by saying, well, that's just an urban issue. It's just a word that they use when they don't want to talk about black folks. The impacts that are going to happen to black folks are devastating. The impacts that are going to happen to lower wealth white communities are devastating. There'll be all these jobs that folks had hope would be in place that are no longer going to be there. So you get these double and triple whammies that are going on in vulnerable communities across our country. And that's the reason when you ask that question, Roland, why you can't see it is because it doesn't exist. It never exists. This was always a facade. They placed the veneer of the flag over top of this, telling people it was big and beautiful and bold and all these other types of things, when what they really should have said is to put a label on it, warning, this will actually shorten your lives. This will take resources away from your communities. And this will never help you address the wealth gap that many communities across our country are dealing with.
So what you have here, you have this constant back and forth, Randy, on how amazing this is. And this is going to unleash the golden era of America. You see Marsha Blackburn and others spouting that nonsense on how this is just going to be just stunning and amazing, and we're just going to have all of this rush of money coming into the country. You have Fed Chair Powell, who said that they would have cut interest rates by now if Donald Trump had not imposed his tariffs. Then you have these people gushing, oh, look at all this new money that came in with tariffs, but they're not counting all of the money that these corporations have lost, small businesses have lost as a result of the tariffs. And so when you just start breaking down these things, in fact, the folks at Zettel, go to my iPad, they had this here. They said the 7 worst things in Trump's new tax and policy package, Randy. They lay out number 1, biggest Medicaid cuts in history. They got number 2, ICE will become the highest funded federal law enforcement agency. They're talking about making cuts to other agencies, but they don't want to talk about what's happening here. And what's so crazy, when you look at the deportation numbers of Trump, Biden, and Obama deported more people in the same time span than Trump is doing, but ICE is already $1 billion over their budget. What the hell are they doing? Oh, they're kicking all this money out to bounty hunters and others who are not actual law enforcement folk.
Right. And building the prisons. I mean, I don't think people understand how much money is made through these private prisons. And they want it set up that way. They want these people to make more money. ICE is not about just stopping these illegal aliens like people try to say, because like you said, he has not done more deportations than our former presidents. It's about show, but it's also about making rich people richer. And one way they do that is for the privatization of prisons and these bounty hunters. And they're also doing it to divide the country and to ensure that some people are seen as the good guys and bad guys. And so we're distracted. If you can get people to be angry about and fearful about illegal immigrants, which calling people illegal and saying all of them are criminal, they're not paying attention to the real criminals, one of whom they put in the highest office of the United States of America, right? That's where the real criminal activity is happening. So it's very interesting to me how people are so hateful that and Trump and his people feel that hate and make us be scared of people that we should not be frightened of, and take the attention off of the people we should be afraid of. And they're just going and paying attention to these marketing efforts, like you say, saying things are going to be so great, when all they're doing is funneling money to make rich people richer. And at the end of the day, as everyone has said on this panel, people are going to die and suffer. The healthcare system already was suffering in this country, but now it is really going to hit home. I mean, in a significant way.
This is crazy, Joe. We've seen this before when these rural states would not expand Medicaid coverage. So check this out. This is a story from the Fox affiliate in Indiana. These 12 rural Indiana hospitals could be at risk under Trump's big, beautiful bill. This was posted just yesterday, June 30th. Now, keep in mind, the two United States senators from Indiana, Jim Banks, Todd Young, both Republicans, they voted for the bill. And look at this here. State lawmakers there are saying that rural hospitals in Indiana could be at risk due to Medicaid cuts. Now, Josh Hawley of Missouri, who was yelling and screaming about, oh my goodness, how it's going to be impacted. What did he say? Rural hospitals are going to be in bad shape. That was last week, yet he still voted for the bill. Others cite letters to Trump saying 338 U.S. hospitals will be impacted by the Medicaid reductions. And so lack of healthcare access in rural America is contributing to worse health outcomes. Now, these four senators, Ed Markey, Ron Wyden, Jeff Merkley, Charles Schumer of all Democrats, research done by the University of North Carolina, state Trump won. And so Trump doesn't give a damn, but they lay out these 12 hospitals. So Louisiana, every health system in Louisiana sent a letter to Speaker Mike Johnson saying, hey, our hospitals in Louisiana are going to be impacted, but the Republican senators and the House members don't care. This is where Democrats, you heard me say Ken Martin, they should be going all out saying, guess what? When they do this cut and hospitals close down, they should be holding news conference in front. And every time somebody has to now travel 50, 60, 70 miles to get to a hospital and unfortunately passes away, they should simply say, Trump, you killed that woman. Speaker Johnson, you killed that man. To the Republican senator in the state, you voted, you led to that person's death. Pure and simple. We've seen it before. It's going to happen again.
People need help. And so while we can say that, we don't like what's going on right now, of course, I mean, that goes without saying. And all of the things that the Republicans seem to be doing, voting against the interests of their constituents. But this is not the first time. We've been here before. Republicans tend to be the ones that cut medical, for people that actually need it. Many Republican governors didn't want to take that Medicaid expansion. Several of them did, but more of them didn't. Several of them didn't that should have. So we kind of been here before. So it's interesting. Like, what line do you cross where you suddenly become righteously indignant? The Republicans have been doing things like this for some time. And we know that generally speaking, policies that affect the least of us tend to be ones that are advanced by Republicans, despite themselves. And this is what's happening again. And so now What the Democrats really have to do is they've got to get the word out so people truly understand where this comes from. Because as ridiculous as it is to you or me, they're going to blame Democrats for this. They're going to blame Democrats for this. He's still talking about Biden. Biden is in Trump's head like he's doing something to him, and he's not. And he continues talking about him. Oh, this is irresponsible, this and that and the other. No, we have to make sure that they own this because they did it. Republican president, Republican Senate, Republican House, they made a decision despite many of their own constituencies saying that they shouldn't. And so we have to make sure that they never forget that, and particularly that the people don't forget that, and that they are motivated enough to make sure that they vote because we are in a time of emergency.
See, let me tell you, some of y'all are sitting here saying right now, oh, here you go, oh my goodness, you're trying to scare us, you're talking about what the Democrats are doing. Let me help y'all out. NAACP had the convention in Las Vegas, and I was sitting here interviewing Bishop William Barber. When I was interviewing Bishop William Barber, he talked about North Carolina. He said that they had a parade in North Carolina. And he said an old redneck came up to him with a Confederate flag draped around his neck. And he walked up to him and he said, Bishop Barber, it's a whole lot you and I don't agree on. He said, and all of a sudden tears are forming in this guy's eyes. He said, but I want to thank you for fighting for our rural hospitals. He was an old redneck in North Carolina. Bishop Barber said, now, he had that Confederate flag draped around his neck. He said, now, I'm going to eventually get him to take that flag down. He said, but the fact that he was recognizing that Moral Mondays in North Carolina, they were not just fighting for black people. They were fighting for white folks in North Carolina, too. And all of a sudden, that message began to spread. And Moral Mondays North Carolina grew into a massive movement because white folks in North Carolina, police officers, firefighters, teachers, public workers, folks on Medicaid, folks on food assistance were realizing that they were fighting against the cuts that were impacting them. So our conversation all today, oh yeah, we're talking to 4 Democrats because the Republicans are the ones supporting this bill. They're the ones voting for this bill. They control the House, they control the Senate, they control the White House. And the folk who are fighting it are Democrats. But I'm telling y'all right now, y'all need to understand, people are going to die. More people are going to die due to starvation if this bill becomes law. More people are going to die because hospitals, they might close, they are going to close. It is going to happen. And when all these things happen, you know what's going to happen? All the folk with money, they're going to be in St. Bart's. They're going to be at the French Riviera. They're going to be kicking it, chilling. They're going to be taking private jets. They're going to be having fun on their yachts, while other folk are literally going to be dying. If you want to accuse us of being Democrat shields and trying to scare people, go right ahead. But I'm telling you, it becomes law 6 months from now, a year from now, we're going to be saying, we tried to tell you. Going to a break, we come back, we're going to talk with Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott about the impact of this on cities like his. Folks, if you want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered, please do so. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to do the kind of coverage that we do every single day with this show, other shows on the Black Star Network. To contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. So please click the Cash App button. Also, you can send your check and money order. P.O. Box, first of all, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037 7-0196. PayPal is rmartinunfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
This week on the other side of change.
Mass incarceration, Trump administration is doubling down on criminalization, and how it is profitable.
And there's something really, really perverse about saying that we need to put people in cages in order for other people to have jobs. Like, that is not how our economy should be built.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. A very different take on Juneteenth with the one and only Dr. Sunyata Ahmed. We'll explore the amazing foods, remedies, and rituals that are a part of our history and the Juneteenth holiday.
So it's our responsibility to return the healthier version to our folks instead of just the red liqueurs marketed to us, the red sodas and the other things. I mean, why does the Kool-Aid man have to sound like Louis Armstrong? He's like, oh yeah!
Yeah, right. An enlightening and tasty hour of the Black Table, only on the Black Star Network.
I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Prouder.
Right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
Folks, because of these cuts in this big, ugly, dangerous bill, cities are going to be impacted. Joining us right now is the mayor of Baltimore, Brandon Scott. Mayor, glad to have you back on the show. First of all, have you and your team been doing an assessment on how Baltimore is going to be negatively impacted if this bill that the Senate passed today now goes back to the House, if it actually becomes law?
Yeah, listen, we basically, Roland, every city in the country is going to be impacted in a devastating way. You're talking about a city that has 11 hospitals in it. And when you talk about that kind of cut to Medicaid and what that will mean, not just for our residents who seek care, but for their jobs and where they work. This is the largest cut to Medicaid in the history of this country. When you talk about $1.3 trillion in a cut to food and assistance and health coverage, while giving the wealthiest of the wealthy $1.3 trillion in tax breaks. You're talking about cutting people's ability off to eat and provide basic needs for their families. It's going to be a devastating thing to cities like Baltimore. And as you just said in your earlier segment, I think people need to understand how deep these cuts are and what's happening here. This isn't about right-sizing the budget. This isn't about trimming the fat. This is about things that are going to literally let people die. This is about cutting the basic social service fabric of this country. Programs that have been put in place for decades. Programs, quite frankly, as you said, that benefit his base, the president's base, more than anyone else. And these things are going to be taken away. And that's on top of course, all the other pulling back of grants, pulling back of funding, challenging anything that's not kowtowed to their short, narrow-minded ways of belief. And when you talk about the public safety aspects, right? When you talk about the growth in ICE and how the other agencies are now being pulled into to do this immigration work, you're talking about something that's very dangerous for a group of people who say all the time they want to drive down crime, especially in Democratic cities. You don't see them talking about that right now, because I can speak from my perspective. We have a 50-year low in violence in the city, but having federal law enforcement agents pulled off of their work that they're doing to stop gun trafficking and stop violent drug organizations, to carry out some of these deportations, is also putting people's public safety at risk. If the big hideous bill passes, it also will make it easier for people to get weapons and things that, quite frankly, they shouldn't have. This bill is big, is hideous, and is detrimental to every single fabric of American life.
Absolutely. And again, when you start going through this and you start, again, looking at the various things in it, we literally are talking about the social safety net in this country. And it's utterly illogical to sit here and say, oh, yeah, folks who are in the top 1% of the country, they deserve more. And even when you look at the estate tax stuff, when you look at all of this here, then when you talk about even when they love talking about a tax on the capital gains, let's be real clear. There are people who are so rich, they live off of the capital gains because that's money that's not even being taxed. So they have the ability, I need people to listen to what I'm talking about. They have the ability to go to a bank or somewhere else and live off of lines of credit because their capital gains are going to pay that off. And so they can have millions and millions of dollars that they're sitting off of and living a high life for capital gains. And then they say, well, because they're not actually paying, because they're not taking a salary. So when Elon Musk goes my salary is zero. You can take a zero salary when your company is giving you $400 to $500 million or billions in stock and incentives.
You can do that, but a lot of Americans can't, right? And you're talking about this big, hideous bill also increasing energy bills by hundreds of dollars for Americans across the country at the same time, while making it harder for them to eat and provide the things that they need for their family. Forces 1 in 4 nursing homes in this country to close its doors, right? This big, hideous bill, Roland, is unpopular with Republicans and Democrats. This is an attack on American society and democracy, and everyone should be calling it out for what it is. So like you said, people should be showing up hospitals when they close. People should be showing up at nursing homes when they close. People should be showing up when people are standing outside of food pantries and other things and saying this does not and did not have to happen. But people were cowering in fear, especially on the Republican side, in fear, doing something that they knew would hurt the people that they were elected to work for and to protect and to lift up, simply because they're scared of the president and the folks around them.
A few more questions, and actually, but I'm gonna say that. Let me go to my panel with them and ask some questions. Randy Brown, you first.
First of all, brother, I just want to congratulate you on all that you have accomplished in Baltimore. I was reading today about, the decrease in homicides. What did you say, a 50-year low?
50.
So
this is the lowest 6 months on record in homicides in the city's history.
So what can you do? I mean, when you have something like this happening, what can you do to prepare to protect Baltimore? And so the impact isn't as great.
Yeah, I think that, listen, we obviously here in Maryland, we also have our fabulous state government led by our fabulous Governor Moore. All of us, we have to do everything that we can to fill gaps. But if we're going to be honest, and I think this is the conversation that I had with my council before they passed my budget, and I had with my residents, that if this bill passes and goes into law, there will be things that will be very devastating to the city of Baltimore. Because no city, we have to be frank and honest, no city and no state can fill all of those gaps. That means that we're going to have to dig into our rainy day funds in some instances. That means that we're going to have to make tough decisions about programs and things that we are doing or things that we wanted to start that we might have to reset and level set to try to help fill some basic things for our residents. But this is the conversation that every mayor is having around the country. And obviously for us, when there are things that we know are direct attacks on us and things that we can do, we are not afraid to take that to court and fight it there as well.
Thank you.
Joe?
Appreciate you, Mayor. Congratulations on the things that you are doing, very similar to other mayors, including the mayor of Chicago, whose crime is down, and people don't talk about that enough. But let me ask you this, kind of building on Randy's question, and it sounds like you've answered it some in terms of talking about having honest conversations with your residents. Do you feel like your residents are receiving the message of the urgency of what's going on right now? And how do we build on that, particularly as it pertains to voter participation and some of these other things?
No, I think here, and listen, I know it's different for me because I'm in what everyone would call deep blue Maryland, right? Our residents hear and understand, but also here they feel that because obviously we have bared the brunt of the cuts to federal jobs and agencies. This is where most of the federal jobs are. Folk workers are here in Maryland. Right? Over 11,000 of them live in the city of Baltimore proper. So our residents have already been so deeply impacted and already are keen in feeling that. So we don't have to sell them on it because it's been impacting them since the first day of the administration. But I think what we have to do a better job of doing is making sure that everywhere, everybody understands that. And as Roland pointed out earlier, we also need to start challenging folks in those places that did vote for the current president, and let them know that, listen, what are they going to do now when the things that they need are cut? Are folks willing to just turn a blind eye to someone who is literally trying to starve them out of their life in order to protect some of the things that they like to protect, including the good old-fashioned American racism that we've seen them protect time and time again?
Thank you, sir.
Mustafa.
Well, Mayor Scott, first of all, like everybody else said, great job so far. I know it's not always easy. I got a two-parter for you. The first part is around education, and we understand that there are some cuts happening. I've actually helped in some of the schools there in Baltimore around environmental and science issues. Can you talk a little bit about, from the beginning, from Head Start all the way up, how you're going to navigate the cuts that are going to be happening in relationship to education? And then I'd hope you could wrap it up around community, because when we have these tough times, community is so incredibly important. And maybe you could talk a little bit about what your vision is of strengthening community there in Baltimore.
Yeah, I think there are a few things. When you talk about the education, I think we know what's happening there can also be devastating, right? We have been blessed to not have some of the deep cuts that we've seen in other places. We're also here in Maryland coming into the period of implementation of a law passed in our state called the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, which pours in billions and billions of dollars into our public education system. My budget that I just passed that went into effect today on the 1st of July actually puts the largest amounts of Baltimore City money into our public school system ever, and we have to continue to do that. But when we see the things that they are attacking at the federal level, we have to, as much as possible at the state level, and of course with education, and at the local level, figure out how we can deal our own policies, how we can change our own things, how we can build those things ourselves and try to replace as much as possible. We saw that this summer with some of the cuts that they made to some of the funding, and we had to pivot here in the city and be able to have our own programming. Also, still being able to provide 8,500 young people with summer jobs, still having over 1,700 young people credit recovery, and have 8,000 other young people still working in programs in our school system, not to mention our summer camps. This is a time where local and state governments are going to have to lead the way in every way possible, but they cannot do that without community. And I think when we're at a time like this, and we're seeing it around some of these issues, this is a time where people have to come together. And this is the time, as I've been telling everyone, as someone who's not up on the ballot in the upcoming year, this is the time where everybody has to put aside, in Maryland and Baltimore and beyond, put aside all the petty, stupid personal beefs, the political beefs, all of that. Right now, we should have one shared goal, and that goal is to make sure that we are fighting these folks that are trying to destroy American democracy, and make sure that we're united and standing up and leaving all the other things to be settled at a later time.
Here's a perfect example here, Mayor. Last point here. And Randy brought up the issue that I was going to raise. That is the success y'all had with dropping the crime rate. And so I'm glad you addressed that. This is the NBC News. Go to my iPad at least. They lay out winners, corporations. The legislation would make permanent trillions of dollars in corporate tax cuts enacted in 2017 during Trump's first term and expand other tax breaks for businesses. The corporate tax rate will permanently lower it from 35 to 21%. Also would extend or increase other tax breaks for businesses like those in new machinery, equipment, and research and development. And then losers, younger generations, will add $3 trillion to the national debt. That's one thing. You're already seeing here that means the U.S. will have to borrow more money. They also are demanding that folks with student loan debt begin to pay that money back. So you have that. Higher income households, the bill would greatly expand the amount of state and local taxes households are able to deduct from their federal taxes. From the current cap of $10,000 to $40,000. The biggest beneficiaries for the change will be households making $200,000 to $500,000 a year, and those that own property because they are likely to pay higher property and income taxes. Well, it says wealthy households and business owners would also benefit from a permanent reduction in the estate tax. Under the legislation, heirs of estates with value at less than $15 million would not have to pay a tax on their inheritance. That cap is set to drop to $7 million in 2026. Ain't that many black folks who can qualify for that. lower income households. What's going to happen? 12 million low income people will lose their health insurance over the next decade by cutting $1 trillion from Medicaid. Steep cuts will hurt the poor and the disabled. It goes on and on. This is real. It says researchers at Georgetown University found that 40% of children in small and rural towns receive their health insurance from Medicaid. You heard Ken Martin say 40% of African Americans get their health care from Medicaid. That means this hurts black people. Mayor?
Yeah, listen, we all know this, right, Roland? I think that we know, and this is what I was just saying. This is why it's important that we scream to high holy hell every time and call these things out for what they are, right? You and I talked about it when they called me the DEI mayor. You and I both know they wanted to call me the nigger mayor, but they didn't have the guts to say so. And now what they're doing is taking this racism, this sexism into policy, right? They want to make it harder for folks like us. But at the same time, this is also about class and wealth. And for those, especially those poor white folks who voted for this, they are the ones should they be screaming the loudest, because you and I both know this is going to impact them just as much as, if not even more, in numbers on certain of these things. And I think that we have to continue to call that out as well and put pressure on those folks, to put pressure on their representatives who are spitting in their face every single day that they support this nonsense, they support this big hideous bill that they're trying to pass. We are talking about allowing them to allow the most wealthy folks in the country who do not need all this extra money to have even more, while taking and cutting people who are literally struggling to eat, cutting their ability to do so. That is the most reprehensible thing that you should ever have seen from a government.
Absolutely. Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott, we surely appreciate it. Congrats on lowering crime there. And folks were trashing your city for a long time. You had folks, the Sinclair chairman who was attacking you constantly on television and newspaper. It's amazing.
That has to stop.
Well, hasn't stopped, but it's amazing how quiet they are about the one thing they claimed was bad, and now all of a sudden they quiet about that, so they're trying to find something else.
Listen, we're going to keep working, right? This is, and I didn't say thank you, because for us, it isn't anything to be congratulated on yet. We have a lot more work to go, and myself, everybody that has worked, from my violence intervention workers, from our police department, from everyone, our attorney general in Maryland, our state attorney, everyone, our communities play a part in this, and we're going to continue to work and ignore the noise, because we have shown that we can do it a different way.
Real quick, I just remembered, tell me real quickly your plan for housing, because you're trying to take dilapidated housing and now convert that, because that is a fundamental problem in this country, affordable housing.
Yeah, we've had a vacant problem in all of my lifetime, right? For 20 years, they've been stuck at 16,000 vacant properties. And now we've worked and have a very unique way, $3 billion plan to eliminate vacants over the next 15 years in the city. We now have them less than 13,000 for the first time in my lifetime. And through that program, we're actually using a TIF, a tax break that we used to use to build high income housing. We're using that to attack the vacants and have our state support as well. And we're going to work together as a team, the state, the community, the business community, to end this problem over the next 15 years.
All right, Mayor Scott, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Folks, going to a break. We come back. We're going to go live to Capitol Hill, where the Rules Committee is involved. We were going to talk to Congresswoman Shontel Brown, but she's introducing an amendment to deal with SNAP benefits. We'll show you that live. Plus, we'll hear from Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Back in a moment.
The next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach. Less than 5% of the top executive positions in corporate America are held by women of color. We know it's not because of talent. A recent study says that it's microaggressions, unconscious bias, and limited opportunities being offered to women of color. On our next show, we're going to get incredible advice from Francine Parham, who's recently written a book sharing exactly what you need to do to make it up into the management ranks and get the earnings that you deserve.
I made a point to sit down and I made a point to talk to people. And I made a point to be very purposeful and thought-provoking when I spoke to them.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
This week on the other side of change.
Mass incarceration, Trump administration is doubling down on criminalization, and how it is profitable.
And there's something really, really perverse about saying that we need to put people in cages in order for other people to have jobs. Like, that is not how our economy should be built.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Farquhar, executive producer of Proud Family.
Bruce Smith, creator and executive producer of The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Folks, United States Senate voted today, 50-50 tie. J.D. Vance broke the tie, so therefore the Senate bill, on this big, ugly, dangerous bill, now passes them. It goes to the House for them to work out in conference what the Senate bill was different from the House bill. We were going to talk to Congresswoman Shontel Brown of Ohio, but the Rules Committee is meeting right now talking about the various changes, and she is going to be introducing an amendment that deals with the issue of SNAP benefits. So let's go live to that hearing right now on the Capitol Hill.
Allow the department to access the first $100 billion of this bill's funding, but before the department can use the last $50 billion, it would require DOD to answer some basic oversight questions about how DOJ and the Department of Defense are working together. Up to this point, our questions to the department have yielded unsubstantial or non-existent answers, and the administration seems unable to explain the role of DOJ in the Department of Defense. At the very least, we should understand what this unauthorized department is doing to the Department of Defense, which has the largest portion of federal budget in the U.S. government. Finally, my last amendment points out what we all know, that nobody wants this bill. My amendment would revise the short title of the bill to the Nobody Wants This Act. On June 30th, ABC News reported on a poll of the big ugly bill that found the majority of voters opposing this legislation. Fox News conducted a poll of registered voters in mid-June, where a majority of voters, 59% to be exact, said they oppose this bill. Specifically, Fox News reported by a 21-point margin, voters oppose the federal budget legislation passed by the House of Representatives that the president calls the One Big Beautiful Bill. About half think this bill would hurt their families. Multiple other polls from a range of outlets, Pew, The Washington Post, and many more, show the majority of Americans don't want this bill. Republicans in Congress don't want this bill. Nobody wants this bill. I would hope that my amendment would help my Republican colleagues see that fact. With that, thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Cisneros. Ms. Randall, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairwoman Fox, Ranking Member McGovern, and members of the Rules Committee for the opportunity to once again testify on this big budget scam. I'm here today on behalf of the hardworking constituents of Washington's 6th Congressional District, including more than 27,000 federal employees. I'm here on behalf of the 1.8 million low-income children and adults who rely on Medicaid in my home state. But I'm also here today on behalf of the 72 million Americans across the country who rely on Medicaid. Because what has been made abundantly clear in the last few months is that those Americans who live in states with Republican leadership are not being listened to by their members of Congress when they are sentenced to losing their health care. A senator from Iowa, in response to concerns from her constituents at a town hall over Medicaid cuts, said, well, we're all gonna die. Apparently, she doesn't care that 700,000 Iowans rely on Medicaid or that 36% of Iowa's children rely on Medicaid. The senator from Kentucky said, they'll get over it. But does he know that 1.4 million Kentuckians rely on Medicaid and that 44% of the births in Kentucky are covered by Medicaid? Medicaid covers also 68% of the nursing homes in Kentucky. I guess the senator isn't worried about selling out those constituents because dead people can't make phone calls and turn up at town halls. The senator from South Carolina, as recently as this week, said we aren't cutting Medicaid.
All right, folks, and we told you earlier that Josh Hawley of Missouri was one of the people talking about these particular cuts. This was what took place before today. It's amazing when you say one thing and do another. Listen to this.
I walked through him and he said, "Oh, wow, that's very surprising." He said, "I'm surprised that they made all these changes and, to the degree they did." I said, "I am too." He was real clear to Senate Republicans just 2 weeks ago, don't touch anything else on Medicaid. Take the House framework, tweak it if you need to, but do not do anything else. And this Senate framework is really, it departs from his framework big time.
So he said that it was just so many cuts that he just couldn't vote for the bill, but he actually did. Okay, that's called lying. I saw this today, and I don't really know what this really does or means, but okay, so Senator Chuck Schumer, the Democratic minority leader, went to the floor and actually said this about the bill. Listen.
Page 1, lines. I raise a point of order against page 1, lines 3 to 5 of the pending amendment, which violates section 313B1A of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974.
The point of order is sustained. The text will be stricken.
What that was is the bill was called the Big Beautiful Bill, and then Chuck Schumer said he just got that changed. Okay. I don't really know what that does, but Mustafa, maybe that's significant. I don't know.
I mean, maybe it's significant inside the Beltway. It's not significant for Mrs. Ramirez or Mr. Johnson or, a laundry list of other folks who have to deal with the impacts that are coming from here. Folks keep doing all this performative stuff, which, is so disingenuous to the people who have to carry the burdens continually. And now you're just placing more on their back. When we look at SNAP, we got about 41 million people right now. I think it's about 14% of the country who rely on that to be able to get as close as they possibly can to having a balanced meal, to being able to have enough nutrition in their bodies to be able to survive, right? So when I see that particular action with that clip, for me, that talks about a survival mentality. And we've got too many politicians who are willing to go to the lowest possible denominator, and that's where they operate from. Where people who are in community are tired of just surviving. A great person once said, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." And we have to change the paradigm. The paradigm for politicians, for everyone who votes, has to be on thriving. We should demand from our politicians the types of things that we need to be able to not just deal with the basic amenities, right? Basic amenities, air, clean air, clean water, access to food, access to housing. But you can't even get these politicians to do those types of things. And it doesn't matter if they're Democrats or Republicans or independents. I throw everybody in there until you show me something different, until you show me that you're actually willing to stand up and fight. And that's what people are looking for. And that's why they're so disconnected from the political systems, because very few people are willing to fight. And when the folks do fight, often they are attacked by so many different individuals and corporations and big PACs and all this other type of stuff that they eventually get wore down, or they find a way to vote those folks out because they were actually the ones that are willing to stand up. So again, no more of this performative stuff, no more bumper sticker language. If you can't take what you did back home, actually sit down on somebody's kitchen or on their back porch and show them how their life is going to be better, then you're wasting people's time. And when you're wasting people's time, you're putting their future in danger, and you are literally, in this particular moment, putting people's life, on life support, and then turning the electricity off because people can't afford it to keep you alive.
I believe in data that shows you exactly what's going on, and people need to actually have numbers and not generic. So this is what Senator Elizabeth Warren posted on her social media account. She says, how many people will lose health care if in your state under Trump's big, beautiful bill? Y'all, here are the numbers right here, okay? Senator Tommy Tuberville, remember he talked about the rats and federal. Well, guess what? Alabama will lose 219,803 people will lose health care in Alabama. Alaska, 39,989. Arizona, 365,984. Arkansas, 158,745. Hello, Sarah Huckabee, Trump's lying White House press secretary. That's your state. California, 2,368,466 people. Colorado, 240,953. Connecticut, 86,580. Delaware, 54,957. Florida, 1,936,421. How about that, Governor Ron DeSantis? Georgia, 651,540. How about that, Governor Brian Kemp? Hawaii, 62,483. Idaho, 72,815. Illinois, 535,849. Indiana, red state, 267,996. Iowa, red state, 113,979. Kansas, red state, 92,937. Kentucky, Democratic governor, red state, 184,526. Louisiana, MAGA Governor Jeff Landry, red state, 267,550. Maine, 61,488. Maryland, 245,929. Massachusetts, 326,262. Michigan, 453,101. Minnesota, 173,268. Mississippi, 153,910. Missouri, 265,298. Mississippi, Missouri, two red states. Montana, red state, 55,981. Nebraska, red state, 78,275. Then we go to the next one. We go to Nevada, 114,500. New Hampshire, 46,388. New Jersey, 363,330. New Mexico, 111,997. New York, 1,019,121. North Carolina, y'all voted for Trump, 651,982. North Dakota, red state, 24,488. Ohio, red state, 489,815. Oklahoma, red state, 211,794. Oregon, 198,089. Pennsylvania, y'all voted for Trump, 483,868. Rhode Island, 47,359. South Carolina, red state, 285,857. South Dakota, red state, 33,838. Tennessee, red state, 310,056. Texas, red state, 1,671,965 people. Utah, red state, 188,494. Vermont, 35,242. Virginia, Republican governor, 322,984. Washington state, 328,695. West Virginia, red state, 82,225. Wisconsin, y'all voted for Trump, 276,175. Wyoming, red state, 20,407. That's 17 million lives Republicans are putting at risk. How in the world can we talk about this country having the greatest healthcare system in the world, and we literally are taking healthcare from people because we want to give corporations more tax breaks? How can we say how great we are, how wonderful we are, when we literally are saying to people who make $200,000 to $500,000, oh, we're going to hook you up with more tax breaks? I need people to understand when we talk about how much people truly make in this country. Because I think a lot of people are absolutely confused when we talk about how much people make. And people walk around in this sort of Instagram world where they think, oh my God. I mean, I think just the average person walking around is making $100,000. Y'all see all them videos, folks talking about who they should date. Like, I ain't dating no man unless he making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. Well, let me help y'all out. This is according to the United States Census. In 2023, this says income in the United States, all right? This is the United States Census. This is the highlights right here. The real medium household income in the United States is $80,610. That's the median household income, means mother, father, and likely 2 kids. That's the median household income. It increased by 5.4% for white households. It increased 5.7% for non-Hispanic white households. There was no significant change in the median incomes for Black, Asian, and Hispanic households. Y'all, $80,610. That means if you ain't making $200,000 to $500,000, that tax break don't impact you. Oh, by the way, the SALT deduction, that's for homeowners. Black home ownership has never been 50%. So if you renting, you don't get that. You don't get that. See, these are the real numbers I'm talking about, Randy, when we start talking about these bills and how and who they impact and regular, ordinary people. So I'm not interested in having a whole bunch of talking heads just sitting here chattering. No, this is real life. We already see people having to spend so much money on food and gas. I'm going to play a clip in a second. Trump was lying today about how all these things have dropped, still lying. And they want to sit here and say, yo, if you are making 200, 300, and 400, and 500,000, ooh, America's great for you. And while they wearing red hats, everybody else should be wearing black hats, because it's going to be thunderstorm, cloudy days in their houses.
Right. You know, we seem to like reality TV so much. We need to get real about our own lives. I agree with you that social media has warped our perception of how most people are living and made us feel as if we are, should be living a certain way. The reality of it is that most of us are living paycheck to paycheck. The reality of it is when we say, oh, we'd only date somebody that's making $100,000, most people are not making $100,000. The reality of the whole thing is that we are struggling, and something like this bill that affects every aspect of our lives. You talk about healthcare. That is the biggest way. That's the number one way that people end up filing bankruptcy. I always point out to people, you never hear about a important, like a senator, you never hear anybody in the government or a president that dies young. And why is it? It's because they have top of the line healthcare. They are looked at and checked out all of the time. When we talk about our history and how we die young, it's because we're not receiving the same level of care. And now it's going to get worse. We just went through a pandemic where people couldn't get the services that they needed. Can you imagine now if you can't even get to a hospital in time to help your loved one? Right? We need to get very real about what's happening. And what has been someone needs to do a psychological study on white people thinking that privilege equals money. You can have white privilege, and you do, right? If you live in America, there's certain that your race does not cause you certain issues, but it does not mean that you have more money. And so you have these broke white people who are making at or below the poverty level, and they keep voting against themselves because you have a president who has divided the company and made these people think that white is one way and everybody else is bad and poor and broke and criminals and illegals and all the words that he uses all of the time, and makes them think because they're white, they're right. And they're going to be white and sick, white and broke, white and dying. Like the numbers you just went through of how it's going to affect every single state, is real, and it's going to impact not just Black people. Because I think just like they voted for this man in, is why they continue to cling on to him, is because they have this idea that these cuts only will affect Black people, because that is the perception that we've always given about Black people, that we are the ones who are broke and struggle and have issues. And that is not the case. They are going to, sadly, I don't even want this, they are going to fuck around, and they are going to they have fucked around, and they're going to find out. And it's going to be a bad wake-up call for the majority of Americans, because even those people who are, are making more money, this will impact them as well. It's sad. It really is sad. And people need, they hate the word woke, but some of these people need to wake up.
I mean, Joe, when you start walking through this, and again, you want things done that are going to be beneficial and help people. That's what you want to do. What you don't want is to sit here and deal with this thing. This guy sit here. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Give me a second. When you talk about broken systems in this country, this guy. I just saw this tweet. Give me 1 second. Let me pull this up for y'all. Now you tell me how regular, ordinary person is supposed to deal with this here. This man, Matt Van Swole, just posted, in March, my wife went to the hospital for stomach pain. They did a CT scan of her abdomen that came back negative. The bill was $9,117.42. Now, first of all, he goes, but apparently if you're an illegal alien, this is free. The system is broken. Well, Matt, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Because see, what Matt doesn't see, that's one of these MAGA folk. That's one of these MAGA folk. Right. See, but I want people to understand why I'm exposing this. See, Matt, first of all, this was also hilarious. I'm sitting here looking at his timeline. Y'all can go ahead and pull it. He's a former nuclear scientist for the U.S. Department of Energy, ex-photographer for Apple, United Airlines, and Hyatt. Okay, so all Matt is doing is tweeting about free health care for illegal aliens, all this sort of stuff, and look at this here. Look at this. Then he's criticizing a pride parade. He's sitting called Tom Tillis is the word. Now here's what's hilarious. He's ripping. Look at this here. Tom Tillis is the worst senator. Dude barely visited us in Western North Carolina after Hurricane Helene. You do know Trump refused y'all more resources for the hurricane. He hasn't done jack shit for recovery of the area. Tom Tillis has to go. But you MAGA and you supported Trump, who ain't sending y'all no money. He goes, I'm new to the conservative movement, but have the GOP always been this lazy and ineffective? So y'all, he's laying all this thing out. He's posting about how great ICE is. Let me explain something to y'all right now. To all the people out there who don't understand how things work in this country, I'm just going to give you an example that you may not be familiar with, and that is this here. In the United States of America, public hospitals are required to treat people. I need everybody listening to me right now. I need you to hear what I'm saying. When you go to a public hospital, y'all, there are two hospitals in America. There are public hospitals and there are private hospitals. A lot of the public hospitals are actually nonprofits. I grew up in Houston, Herman. You have two, Herman Hospital, public. You have Methodist Hospital, okay? All right, so if you're in Houston and you are having a murder situation and you roll up to Herman Hospital, they are required by law to treat you. Whether you are undocumented, whether you are an American citizen, and here's the deal, they're gonna send you a bill. Now guess what? Matt don't understand that CT scan for his wife, it's gonna be the same for an undocumented worker or for an American citizen. You're gonna get the same $9,000 bill, Matt. That's what you're gonna get, Matt. And the private hospital, Matt, can refuse to treat somebody. They literally, sir, do you have health care? No, I don't. I'm sorry, you don't have health insurance? Yeah, we can't see you. They don't have to treat you. So when Matt's bemoaning the same healthcare system, see, that's why I love showing these MAGA people, Mustafa, because Matt is talking about how he's now a conservative, yet the people who want to get rid of $35 for insulin are the Republicans. The folk who want to stop them, they're Republicans. I'm gonna finish this point here. I see Congressman Joe Negase is speaking in the Rules Committee. Let's go live to Capitol Hill.
And I think expose the cruelty of this bill that I think will have disastrous consequences, certainly for all of our constituents and ultimately, I believe, all Americans. I had, I guess, just one question that, or perhaps maybe it might be a few questions, for the gentleman from Maryland. Because while you are new to Congress, you may be surprised to learn that you and the chairwoman here have something in common, which is that both of you come from states, you have the privilege of representing states, that have very similar error rates with respect to SNAP. And I don't know if you were here previously, and you hopefully heard some of the discussion that we had about this absurd provision that Americans are now learning about, that apparently Senate Republicans put into this bill regarding SNAP, ostensibly to get the bill across the finish line, to get Senator Murkowski's vote. And I just kind of want to walk through this because my sense is that your amendment attempts to equalize everything. It would essentially remove this deal that was made in the Senate from the bill. And if your amendment were not ruled in order, I want to kind of get a sense as to how this bill will work in practice. So in Maryland, the SNAP error rate right now is 8.85%. In North Carolina, it's 8.11%. So under this bill, right, assuming it's enacted into law, the state of Maryland and the state of North Carolina have really only three choices. One, raise taxes to essentially pay for what is a cost share that's never been imposed on states before. Two, cut SNAP funding and force countless vulnerable citizens to no longer have access to food assistance. Or three, this new option, which is increase your error rate above 13%. So basically overpay SNAP or underpay, you choose. But make sure that your program is not working appropriately. And if you can get to 13%, you can join the 10 states that have such poor error rates that they're exempted from any kind of cost share for 4 years, including the state of Georgia, Mr. Scott.
Actually, only a Democrat state would actually intentionally increase their error rates. A Republican state would work to reduce them.
Well, that's fascinating. If that's the case.
It's not an option you mentioned.
Well, if that's the case, and I didn't yield to the gentleman, but in any event.
But you did forget that one.
I hear you. I will simply say this. If that's the case, then you could just remove them entirely. Why include these 10 states as part of this deal if apparently Republican states are so committed to reducing the error rate on their own volition? Why don't you have that cost share start tomorrow? Clearly, that's not the case. Clearly, Republicans in the U.S. Senate. What was that?
I'd be fine with the.
Then you should vote against the bill. You have an opportunity tomorrow to make that clear. Well, that's unfortunately, I assume that that'll be fine for the people of Georgia because, as I said, they're exempted from this, so they don't have to worry about that. But the people of North Carolina do, as do the people of Maryland. So I don't know if the gentleman wants to opine on that.
I thank you for the question, Mr. Neguse, and that's why we are offering this amendment. We are offering the chair and her colleagues the opportunity to not penalize the great citizens of North Carolina, to not penalize the residents of Maryland. We can create an even playing field where all states are in the same space as it relates to SNAP, where all states have the opportunity to work towards improving our error rates and not being penalized and, in fact, incentivized to go in the opposite direction. I think that is a terrible thing to be incentivizing. I thought your conversation with Mr. Roy earlier was very instructive when he agreed. And again, I'll enter in the record as well from earlier. I want to enter in the record that there's one time that I'm agreeing with Mr. Roy as well, that this is not sound policy. This will hurt our states. And so I would encourage this committee to both vote for the amendments. I don't know how you rule it in order if you're advancing a bill that already has these requirements in it. So I would encourage this committee to rule the amendments in order, adopt the amendments, and then tank this bill. because it will take away those benefits for hungry kids.
Hear, hear. Couldn't have said it better myself. I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neguse. Ms. Leisure Fernandez, you're recognized.
I, too, want to thank each of you because what we are engaged in right now is an effort to make sure that the American public knows that this time around, House Republicans are stealing Americans.
All right, folks, so this is what I was, so we're going to, in a moment, speaking with Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. But here's what I was trying to make earlier. When you go into a public hospital, if you can't afford the bill, you know who pays that? Taxpayers. Taxpayers. So one of the reasons you've had the Affordable Care Act is that people then had health insurance. It dramatically decreased the number of people who didn't have health insurance. So if I want all y'all conservatives and liberals and progressives and fiscal hawks to all understand that right now, American taxpayers, based upon our county health systems, they foot the bill when people don't have health care and they show up at public hospitals. It is stunning to me, Mustafa, how many people don't understand that basic fact that's costing the same taxpayers billions of dollars. So if people actually had health care, it wouldn't be costing the taxpayers. You on me?
I think the other part,
There you go. There you go. Come on, guys.
Yeah, I was just
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you hit it on the head. I think the other part of the context for folks is that, you know, most folks don't understand we've got 129 million people in this country who have at least one chronic disease. Now, that's not Mustafa who's saying that. That's the CDC who actually shared that number. And when we look at, when you've got, forget what the number is now, it's about 60% of bankruptcies that also have medical debt. That's a part of pushing people into bankruptcies and all the parts that come out of that. So it just makes no sense to limit the amount of individuals in our country who have basic health care. To take that away means that if you know what the numbers are, then once again, you know more people are going to die. But not only are more people going to die, there are going to be these ripple effects of you not having health care because you're making other types of decisions that are going to create additional stressors. I believe Randy brought into our conversation a little bit about the mental health aspect as well. So it's not only cruel, it just doesn't make economic sense for you to limit the amount of people who actually have access to health care. It makes the country weaker. You end up having a workforce that is sicker. That means that we cannot compete on an international level in the way that we need to. It means that, you know, you have parents who are sicker, so they can't spend the time that's necessary with their children. So there are all of these ripple effects when you don't have the strong healthcare infrastructure in place. And healthcare infrastructure is making sure that you have the health insurance that people need, making sure that they have access and affordability to healthcare facilities.
Yep.
All of these things are critically important.
I'm trying to give folks this here. I want to show you this real quick. I'm trying to find a more recent number, but this is from, this was published April 6, 2021, and it shows that the uncompensated care costs for the nation's uninsured average $42.4 billion per year in the 2015 to 2017 time period. Now, guess what? Before that's after the Affordable Care Act. Before the Affordable Care Act, it was $62.8 billion a year. So the Affordable Care Act cut by $20 billion American taxpayers were spending for uncompensated care costs. Y'all, that means county people, taxpayers are paying that amount of money. So if more people have health care in America, it's going to cost taxpayers less dollars because they don't have to be paying the uncompensated care. And the law says, and Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries is joining us right now, and he can confirm this, the law requires public hospitals, they have to care for a person when they show up, whether they have insurance or not. Correct, Democratic Leader Jeffries?
That's absolutely correct, and it's more expensive if you have to treat people in the emergency department as opposed to them being able to receive primary care where you can avert a whole bunch of situations.
So if you have the flu and you have insurance, you can go see a doctor. It's cheaper than if you have the flu and you got to get rushed to the emergency room.
That's absolutely correct. I mean, by every measure, what the Republicans are trying to do with this one big ugly bill is reckless, it's dangerous, it's going to cost lives in every single state in this country.
I'm just, so right now, earlier I had DNC Chair Ken Martin, and one of the things that he talked about were the folks, the 35 Republicans being targeted. I saw the DCCC put this out, 2026 districts in play. And what I've been saying to people, Leader Jeffries, is very simple, and that is, listen, Democrats in the House are going to vote against this particular bill. Is your strategy to target, folks, come on, go to my iPad. Is your strategy to target, tell people to call these individuals and say, you need to vote against this bill or you're going to pay the price at the ballot box in 2026 because this bill can die in the House if you get, how many people, what, 5 Republicans to vote against it or 6? What's the number?
Yeah, all we need is 4 Republicans. Every single House Democrat is going to oppose this bill. We're strongly opposed to this bill, which means that all we need is 4 Republicans to join us, and we can kill this bill from ever even getting to Donald Trump's desk. And all we're asking these Republicans to do, one, is to show some John McCain level of courage when John McCain became the deciding vote in stopping the reckless Republican effort to repeal the Affordable Care Act. John McCain took that step because he understood that if you take away health care, the people that he represented in Arizona were going to suffer. Well, that's the same thing as it relates to all of these congressional districts where people are willing to effectively end Medicaid as we know it, throw off millions of people from receiving their Medicaid. They're trying to detonate large parts of the Affordable Care Act, and they even are going to cut Medicare as a result of this bill by more than $500 billion. This is extraordinary, Roland. It is the largest assault on health care in American history.
What jumps out at me as well, you talk about the people, SNAP benefits. We were just showing the House Rules Committee. We were going to have Congresswoman Shontel Brown on, but she's introducing an amendment to deal with that. I mean, how in the world can you sit here and offer billions of breaks to people making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, massive corporations, lower the corporate tax rate from 35 to 21%, and you have no problem with people starving, dying from food insecurity, and what, this average SNAP benefit is what, $3 or $4, maybe $5 a day?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. About $6 per meal per day. That's it. And you're talking about massive tax breaks to wealthy corporations and to the billionaire donors of the Republicans. And then they want to stick everyday Americans with the bill, rip away health care, rip away nutritional assistance, as you've indicated, the largest assault on nutritional assistance in American history. Literally, Roland, these people are ripping food from the mouths of children, veterans, and seniors. This is extraordinary stuff. And so we're going to continue to keep the pressure on these extreme MAGA Republicans in the House. The problem is that what we've seen all year is that when Donald Trump says jump, they just ask the question, how high? These people aren't functioning as they should, consistent with the Constitution, a separate and co-equal branch of government, looking out for the people that they're supposed to represent. They basically have been rubber stamps for Donald Trump's extreme agenda.
So what are you saying to your caucus? What are you asking people to do? Because the reality is, yes, it passed the House, it went to the Senate, and they have to now reconcile. This bill is not guaranteed it will get passed. Will it likely get passed? I personally think Republicans are going to bend their knee. But the reality is the bill can be stopped. You don't have to have these massive cuts to hurt people. What do you want the people? We've got nearly 6,000 people watching live right now, just on YouTube, more on Facebook and our app. People are listening. What do you want people to do right now? They cannot wait. There's still time.
Yeah, absolutely. You just got to make sure that you reach out to your member of the House of Representatives to share your perspectives as to whether you want health care to be cut for millions of Americans. Do you want food assistance to be cut? Or would you rather see massive tax breaks go to their billionaire donors and their wealthy and well-off corporations while everyday Americans are actually going to get hurt? The voice of the people needs to be heard. And if you have a member of Congress who shares your values, then then urge them to keep pressing on and making the case. If there's a member of Congress that represents you who does not share your values, who's voting against your interests, then of course you have the First Amendment right to express yourself to them to make sure that you are communicating the fact that you have an expectation that they're going to defend the health care of the American people, defend nutritional assistance, defend veterans, defend higher education. These people are going after Pell Grants in this bill. They're going to make it more expensive for people to get a college education. That's going to fall disproportionately on communities of color. And they are going after utility costs in a way, because they are attacking the clean energy economy. It's going to cause utility costs to increase for millions of Americans by hundreds of dollars per year.
Well, I certainly hope the DNC and other folks going to be doing robocalls to those congressional districts, are going to be hitting people because, again, we're talking massive impact, billions of dollars impacting cities, counties, states, school districts. You ought to see Trump targeting blue areas. If you're elected to office, you're supposed to be representing Democrats and Republicans, liberals and conservatives, voters and non-voters, and we're not seeing that. And this is crucial, and there has to be a sense of urgency, Leader Jeffries, from everybody. And I would hope that Democratic members are going to be on every single day challenging, pushing folks to get them to understand that they're going to be hurting regular Americans, especially folks who don't make $200,000 or more, especially with the median household income in America being 80 grand.
That's right. It's an all hands on deck moment, and we've said everybody's got to lean in aggressively. Maximum engagement, communicating with the American people, pressing our Republican colleagues, and doing everything that we can over the next several days to try to stop this bill from moving out of the House of Representatives.
All right, Leader Jeffries, I know you're busy. You got to go. I appreciate you joining us. Can't wait to have you back.
Thank you, man.
Thanks a bunch. Again, so let me help folks out who are watching and paying attention, because this is also one of the big problems that we have. A lot of folk, y'all don't know who represents you. You are thinking that this CBC member or somebody else represents you, and you may be living in a Republican district. So here's what you need to do. I need y'all to go to Google and just do this here. I need y'all to type in how to find your member of Congress. Everybody right now, I need y'all to go to Google and either type in how to find your member of Congress, okay? And then when you do that, you see right here, the first line that comes up is congress.gov. The second line that comes up is house.gov. The third one is usa.gov. I want you to click congress.gov because they have representatives and senators. And all you need to do is put in your zip code. So let's just say if I put in where we are, 20006, you see right there, boom, these come up. Let's just say type Washington, D.C., and it's going to say your possible members, and it has the map, boom, Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton. If I sit here and go back, and then I click this here, and I type in, let's say I grew up in 77029 in Houston. That's where I grew up in Clinton Park. So you see right there, it says 77029 Clinton Park, Tri-Community, Jacinto City, Texas. That's where I grew up in Houston. When I type that in, it's going to pop up, oh, boom. Here are the two state senators, John Cornyn, Ted Cruz, and the representative is Sylvia Garcia, Democrat from Texas. And so I need everybody who's watching us right now to do that. That way you know exactly who represents you. That is critically important because now you know who to call. Some of y'all might be living in a congressional district represented by a Republican and you're a constituent. So when you call, you should say, I'm calling your congressional office in D.C. or local. I'm a constituent. I need you to vote against this bill because I am a voter. And let them know that if you vote for this bill, then I'm going to be voting against you when you run for re-election next year. That's why it's important for us to understand the basic fundamentals of politics. And too many people, Randy, don't understand who their city council member is, who their school district member is, who their state rep, their state senator, who their House member is. They may only know the governor, or they only may know the United States senator.
Take your power. Take your power. Know who is supposed to be representing you and contact them. And let me tell you something. I think that what we've seen is that a lot of these people don't care. They cannot see the picture that many of us are living, that the future and how it scares us. But they are self-absorbed and they do care about their own interest. And so let them know, you will not be voted back into office if you vote yes and allow this bill to pass the House. You have to let them know and let them know that you have power, because we do. We do. And as we see, Congress is not working on our behalf like they should, but we can. We can force them to do it.
Absolutely. That's the case. Folks, it looks like, go live to Capitol Hill. It looks like the House Rules Committee is still going on. It looks like they've switched out the first group of folks testifying. Now I see a second group. I'm looking here. I think I see Congresswoman Jahana Hayes of Connecticut. I think I see Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas. I think I see there on the far left end Congresswoman Shontel Brown of Ohio. We only are seeing the back of their heads. And so once they start up, then we're going to actually go live there. And I want to carry their testimony. Truth Talks is live at 8. We're going to go over our time for our panelists have to go. I understand that. But we just missed their Congressman Trey Carter of New Orleans. So while we were interviewing Speaker Jeffries, he was talking. We're going to try to get his comments and play that later, but we want y'all to hear from these Black Caucus members who are testifying live right now. We want to show that for you because we want to hear what you have to say. I just need folk to understand that you heard the speaker say, y'all, this is absolutely all hands on deck. This is not an opportunity for us to be sitting back. Again, it's almost 6,000 of y'all watching on YouTube. If every single person watching us right now, Joe, calls 5 friends and say, I need you to call these folk I need y'all to call these 35 members. Or here's the whole deal, okay? Y'all see right here, okay? The DCCC sent this out. These are 35, you heard Ken Martin say that there are 35 Republicans districts in play. This is who they are. You see Alaska, you see Arizona, you see 3 in Arizona, California, Colorado, Florida, Iowa, Kentucky, Michigan, the open seat in Michigan. You got Ann Wagner in Missouri, Don Bacon. This seat right here, Don Bacon has announced he's retiring. That is Omaha, Nebraska. That's where a black man just was elected, the mayor of Omaha, Nebraska, beating out a white incumbent female Republican. That could potentially be a Democrat pickup seat right here. You've got Tom Keene Jr. in New Jersey, Mike Lawler, Max Miller, Mike Turner, Mike Carey, Brian Fitzpatrick, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Texas, Rod Whitman of Virginia, Gene Keegans, Brian Style, Wisconsin, Derek Van Orden of Wisconsin. Let me also say this here, because most people I don't even comment on. But you got somebody sitting here, sports actuary filter rolling. Why didn't you confront Jeffries about accepting corporate donations? Is it because you also are on that titty? That's not your journalism. First of all, you can kiss my ass. See, this is the stupid stuff that we also have to deal with some people who are just dumb. First of all, you got to be an idiot to say that, show me the corporate donations that we are accepting. And guess what? Corporations spend $350 billion in advertising a year. So you saying black-owned media shouldn't get corporate advertising? That's stupid. $10+ billion was spent on campaigns 2024. Actually, I think the number was closer to $11 billion. The Kamala Harris campaign spent $600 million on advertising. We got $350,000. Very few other black-owned media got money. So are you trying to say black-owned media should not accept political advertising, but Sinclair took political advertising, Comcast did, Disney did, Discovery Warner did, every major media company, iHeartRadio did, every white media company, CNN did, Fox News did. All these white media companies took advertising But black people can't? You can kiss my ass, sports actuary. It's as simple as that. Now, back to the task at hand. Right here. You see this graphic here. It says, call these, this is the folk you need to call. Drop the lower third, please. Folk, you see the number. Call 202-225-3121, 202-225-3121. If you live in any of these districts, I showed you how you need to check to see if you are represented by any of these 35 people. You heard Leader Jeffries say they just need 4 Republicans to vote against this bill and it will not pass. You should be checking to see if any of these people actually represent you. That's what the goal is. We can speak up. We have every right as constituents to tell folk how we want them to vote. And Mustafa, people need to understand you got to be in the game. You got to check in. This is not about tweeting or posting on Instagram or TikTok. It's not about being cute. All the folk out there who are doing boots on the ground, I need you to get your boots on the ground and pick up that damn phone and send some emails and send some text messages and make some phone calls and doing this sort of stuff, because that's what needs to happen in order for us to not have people lose health care, lose food benefits who need it.
Yeah, you know, folks have heard me talk about my grandmother and one of her quotes when she says you have power unless you give it away. The other part of that power is that you got to get active. You know, as you said, I get so frustrated when people just want to do stuff online and don't want to actually roll up their sleeves and get in the game and actually, you know, do the things that are necessary. And you do have power. I mean, pick up the phone, make the phone calls. You know, send the messages as well to let people know exactly what your expectations are. But I worked on Capitol Hill. Some other folks, of course, who are on the show have as well. And it's incredibly important when they hear from you, they actually pay attention to that because, and you know, what I learned up there is that politicians, a lot of politicians only care about a couple of things. One, they care about their campaign contributions. I'm just going to have real talk with folks. And the other part of it is their constituencies and what their constituencies think. And if you are one of those individuals, you have power in this moment. And for our community, you know, I hope people send more messages to you, Roland, actually talking about health inequity that's going on across the country. And this will just contribute to that. So if you love black people, and so many people want to talk about how they love black folks in our community. If you truly love, then that means that you're going to get engaged in this moment because you want to help to protect black lives. You want to make sure that we're addressing the maternal issues that are going on inside of our communities. You want to make sure that our elders are protected and that the resources that they work for decades upon decades upon decades are actually coming back to our communities. If you love black people, then we're going to make sure that we address the wealth gap that's going on. If you love black people, then you're going to make sure, since our communities are ones that are disproportionately impacted from air pollution and water, you know, we saw what happened in Flint and in Jackson and all these other communities, then you're going to get up and you're going to make that phone call because you say you love black people. If you love black people, you're going to also make sure that all these jobs that we had finally had an opportunity to come back to our communities with, the advanced manufacturing, all these other types of things, where we finally were going to get an opportunity, that we're making sure that people understand how we feel about this. We want to make sure that if you love black people and if you love black children and if you love black babies, then you're going to make sure those SNAP benefits are there. Because we know that there's a percentage of our community that actually utilizes those, and rightly so, because each and every one of us get up every day and pay our taxes, and those tax dollars should come back to our communities. So if you love black people, understand that you have power and utilize it.
Absolutely. I had somebody in the chat say, Roland, why didn't you let the panel ask any questions of Speaker Democrat Leader Jeffries? Well, it's real simple. Initially, we had 20 minutes. He came on about 6 minutes late. As other business, our time got cut to 8 minutes. And so, hello, that's why. Y'all, this is what I do, okay? This is what I do. This ain't what you do. Randy.
You kind of threw me off a little bit there.
I mean, sometimes you got to let folk know that, that, again, some of y'all at home watch the NBA and you think you can play in the NBA, but you ain't a pro basketball player.
Right.
You ain't a pro journalist. So please stop. Go on right ahead, Randy.
the time right now is very critical. I've seen a lot of people, and I understand the interest because I love the drama and the scandal too, but a lot of people were talking about the Diddy verdict and things. And I could honestly say I am so wrapped up in what's happening right now because Diddy at the end of the day is one man. Yes, he's a black man, but he's one man, with a family, care about the family. But what's happening right now in the world is so incredibly critical, and it's going to affect millions and millions of people and particularly have a major impact on Black people. So right now, I can't even pay attention to something so minor as you contrast it. Like, I can't afford to pay attention because this needs our attention, everyone. Like, we need to be. And so if you're calling your girlfriends and be like, girl, did you see the verdict? Or, whatever you're doing. Also, okay, I'm not going to say what you can't do, but also take the time to call and say, we need you to get right on this. We have to be active. We do have to have our boots on the ground. I mean, this is significant. We are looking at a time. I mean, we've always talked about
right here. Actually, I got to interrupt Randy right now. I need to go to Capitol Hill. Y'all, that's let me see. That's not Shontel Brown, y'all. That's Johanna Hayes, Connecticut. Go.
Nowhere is that more apparent than with Republicans in the Senate, where they went to great lengths to exempt certain states from their dangerous policies in order to secure votes. If it's so great and it doesn't cut benefits or food to people, why was Senator Murkowski trying to protect her state at the expense of 48 others? The Senate worked through the night rewriting provisions by hand to convince the parliamentarian to approve workarounds to exempt certain states from the most harmful provisions of this bill. They bent over backwards to spare some Americans from these cruel policies to secure tax cuts for billionaires. In fact, today at 12:44, President Trump tweeted in part, and I quote, "Elon may get more subsidy than any human being in history by far, and without subsidies, Elon would probably have to close up shop and head back to South Africa." Republicans in Congress made it clear that they have the power to choose who goes hungry in this country. They have the power to choose who is harmed by this budget. Last week, 23 governors sent a letter to congressional leaders to raise the alarm. If states cannot come up with the money to replace federal funds, they will have to cut SNAP enrollment or end their programs entirely. The choice was clear: to protect certain Americans from going hungry. In my home state of Connecticut, 390,000 individuals are at risk of going hungry because of this legislation. Under this legislation, Connecticut could be required to pay up to an additional $221 million annually for SNAP benefits and an additional $39 million in administrative costs. These funds must come from somewhere. Connecticut, like many other states, will be forced to choose between feeding hungry people and using those funds for other critical services like housing, public health, education, or even public safety. The governor of Pennsylvania expressed concern that if this bill passes, this program may end permanently in his state. We do not have to make this choice. States should not have to make this choice. My amendment would strike the nutrition subtitle from this bill, eliminating these dangerous cuts and untested policies. It would protect 42 million Americans who rely on SNAP to help put food on the table. It would ensure hungry children, seniors, and people with disabilities are not losing benefits to pay for tax cuts for the billionaires. The wealthiest nation as the wealthiest nation, we can afford to feed our children. We've heard a lot from my colleagues about how this bill does not cut food to hungry children and working families, and it only applies to able-bodied adults. That is absolutely not true. If it were true, Senator Murkowski would not have been working so hard to carve Alaska out of this provision. My amendment is an opportunity to demonstrate our values and protect these programs if that is what we truly want to do. Much of what we're talking about with work requirements and some of the other provisions, we tried to offer workarounds for that when this bill was first considered before the House. We offered amendment after amendment to try to make this bill better, and every single one of them was rejected. We should not be forcing Americans to go hungry so that billionaires could get another tax break. As Mr. McGovern said earlier, The Defense Department has never passed an audit. Elon Musk has more subsidies than any human being, according to Donald Trump, in the history of humanity. So why aren't we starting there? Why are we looking to take $2 per person per day from the most vulnerable individuals and not having any conversation about the wealthiest, the most well-connected, and some of these defense programs that are bloated and have never passed an audit? I urge this committee to support my amendment. I urge the American public to read this bill and look at these provisions and understand what it says and who will be affected. Because at the end of the day, it is our neighbors, it is our friends, it is our children, it is our church communities, it is all of the people that we represent. And with that, I yield back.
Thank you, Representative Hayes. Representative Brown, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to speak on this amendment. My amendment would strike one of the cruelest provisions in this bill, a provision that was already bad when the House first passed it, and then the Senate Republicans somehow made it even worse. The part of the big ugly bill rips food away from seniors, families with teenagers, veterans, homeless individuals, and those aging out of our foster care system, just to hand tax cuts to the wealthiest Americans who do not need them. I would like to ask my Republican colleagues on this panel the same question I did the last time I was here. How? How exactly does taking food away from struggling families, seniors, and veterans make this country safer, stronger, more secure, healthier, or dare I even say great? And once again, you all can't answer that question because there is no answer. No reason will justify kicking vulnerable people off a program that gives them $6 a day to spend on food. $6 a day. Let's talk about what this provision in the bill really means. It means telling seniors who spent decades working that now they're on their own. It means telling veterans who put on the uniform that their service doesn't matter. It means telling teenagers aging out of foster care, good luck, but figure it out yourself. It means punishing homeless Americans who are already fighting to survive. It means forcing parents with teenage kids to choose between caregiving and feeding their families. These are not faceless or nameless numbers. These are real people in your districts and in mine. Here are a few stories from Ohio and the people that I represent. Anthony visited the Greater Cleveland Food Bank just a few weeks ago. He is homeless, and he is doing everything he can to get back on his own 2 feet. SNAP isn't some line item on a budget to him. It is a lifeline. A lifeline that provides just enough to prevent him from going hungry as he searches for stability and work. And under this bill, Anthony would have 90 days, or he loses everything. Then there's Mary in her early 60s. She's battling serious health issues. She's worked her entire life. She's not on Medicare yet, not on full Social Security. She's caught in a dangerous gap, a gap that this bill targets. That's not reform. That's punishment. And then there's Mallory, who is caring full-time for her 99-year-old grandmother while raising a teenage daughter. Because her daughter is 14, not 13, not 12, Mallory would be forced to get a job or lose basic benefits for her entire household. We are literally telling caregivers like Mallory that if you are not punching a clock, then you don't matter. What kind of government does that? What does this say about who we are as Americans? So when they vote today, I hope my Republican colleagues remember their names: Anthony, Mary, Mallory. And let me set the record straight. SNAP is not a job program. Never has been and never will be. SNAP is a lifeline, not just a line item in a budget. SNAP is an anti-hunger program, and food should not be some sort of reward for productivity. It is a basic human right. And no amount of spin, talking points, or tax cuts for the rich will change that. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
Thank you. Representative Horsford, you're recognized.
To the chair, to the ranking member, to the members of the committee, I'm Stephen Horsford, representing Nevada's 4th Congressional District. I want to thank all of my colleagues here today and those who have submitted 400 or more amendments to this one big ugly bill. And I'd ask the chair to make those amendments in order so that we can debate these issues on the floor in front of the American people, because they deserve to know who. Who are we here to fight for? I'm not here to fight for Donald Trump or Elon Musk. I'm not here to meet some deadline for the president. I'm here to represent the 750,000 people in Nevada who elected me to do a job, and that is to fight and to represent and to stand for the future of them and their families. And it's been months since my colleagues and I started sounding the alarm about how devastating the impacts of this bill would be. And guess what? The American people see it. They feel it. They know it, and they reject it. Just look at the polls from Fox News to Pew. The minute voters learn what's actually inside this bill, their answer is loud and clear. No way. No way to cutting 17 million Americans off their health care, the biggest health care cut in American history. No way to ripping food from the tables of women and children and veterans. No way to hiking household energy costs on working families. And no way to putting 3.5 million clean energy workers, folks who are building up America's future, out of a job, which would be the biggest job cut in history. And to do what? To line the pockets of billionaires and special interests. I don't work for them. Even Senator Lisa Murkowski said it. The House needs to recognize that we are not there yet. Well, Madam Chairwoman, let me make it plain. This bill will never be there. It's cruel, it's reckless, and it's wrong for the American people. That's why I'm offering common sense amendments to do what this bill refuses to do. Put the working people of this country first. A lot has been said about work, and the dignity of work. I want to talk a little bit about no tax on tips and the tip workers. I represent the largest share of tip workers in the country. Right now, millions of restaurant workers and tip workers in America make $2.13 an hour, Madam Chair, $2.13 an hour. Yolanda, a fountain worker who I invited to come to hear the president talk during his State of the Union, because I wanted her to hear directly after he made a campaign promise around no tax on tips. I wanted her to hear the details. You know what she feels now? No tax on tips has become some tax on tips. Because for tip workers, they cap it at $25,000. They don't do that for the billionaires. It's temporary for 4 years. They don't do that for the big corporations. Temporary relief doesn't pay permanent bills. So let's reward work and not wealth. So here's my ask. Make no tax on tips permanent, and let's do it right. No loopholes, and don't let your boss call wages a tip or let someone pass a birthday gift off as a tip. If we're serious about helping workers, you'd vote for my amendment. But let's zoom out. This bill doesn't just hurt workers. It devastates entire industries, like tourism. In my home state of Nevada and in states all across this country, tourism is an economic lifeline. But Trump's reckless blanket tariffs are crushing it. The numbers are staggering, $64 billion in losses to American tourism this year alone. And while they do that, this bill slashes funding for the Brand USA program, proven to generate huge returns for our economy. For every dollar invested in Brand USA, we get another $13.70 back in visitor spending. Yet Republicans are gutting it in this bill. Once again, they are creating economic uncertainty, not producing economic opportunity. Working families can't find homes that they can afford. Why? Because Donald Trump and Republicans are making construction materials more expensive, driving up costs for builders and home buyers alike. So I'm offering an amendment to help fix that, to support construction workers, reduce housing costs, and to make sure that first-time buyers actually have homes to buy. I know my time is over, but let me just say this. It's time that we reject this cruel, rigged, and reckless bill, that we put the American people first, that we stand and fight for their future and not for the billionaires like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. I yield back.
Thank you. Representative Torres, you're recognized.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and Ranking Member McGovern. I'm here to testify in opposition of this Republican reconciliation bill and in support of including amendments.
So I know there are people watching who may say, look, this thing is guaranteed, etched in stone, but the reality is it's not. It's not. People can work to stop it. I'm going to go to our panel. I know some have to go. Joe, I'm going to go to you first. The reality is, again, what we're laying out to people and trying to get them to understand is that if you are engaged, Joe's gone? I'm sorry. Sorry, that signal was frozen, so you still look like that. Randy, it's real simple. When we talk about politics, when I always say that the election is the end of one process, the beginning of another, this is exactly what we're talking about. The election is over. If you voted for Vice President Kamala Harris, she lost. If you want to keep bringing that up, that's fine. But the reality is she's not there. Donald Trump is sitting in there. And guess what? Republicans control the House and the Senate. But this is where pressure has to be applied, maximum pressure. What I say to people, we already know House Democrats are not, there's not one House Democrat that's going to vote for this bill. So if you are sitting here saying, how do you impact this here? It's simple. These are the people that you hit. These are the people that you should be posting on their social media. If you're watching right now, guys, come on, switch, go to my iPad, come on. If you're sitting here watching, these are the people, drop the lower third, please. These are the people you should be targeting. These are the people you should be going to their social media, on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok, on Facebook, on Snapchat. You should be checking every social, go on LinkedIn, doesn't matter, saying vote no. They should be feeling the heat. They should be inundated with phone calls. It should be inundated with emails, inundated with tweets and posts and targeting them. If you are a constituent, you should be saying, I'm going to hit them 2, 3, 4 times a day. You don't stop until the vote is taken. No game is over until the clock reads 000. It's the same in politics.
No one benefits from our lack of engagement but them. No one benefits from our lack of engagement but the Republicans. They want us to give up. They want us to think that there is no hope. But hopeless people don't change things. We have to be hopeful. And we only need 4 people. Hakeem Jeffries just told us we need to turn around 4 people. That is possible. At least I believe it's possible. You know, I was thinking about all the times I have been somewhat crazy on my phone. Back in the day when we used to call in radio stations to get on the radio or request a song. I'm sure there was some man at some point that I called over and over again. I surely can call about something this important. I surely can pick up my phone a few times a day in an effort to help everyone, to help the American people, because when we don't even have health care, we don't have health, we have nothing. So absolutely do not give up, do not become hopeless, because that's what they want, and that serves no one but them.
You know, and here's one of the things that again, it shows you the sheer hypocrisy and how they are liars. And also, I'm going to explain to you right now, again, what happens when you don't vote. The person I'm about to show you who's an absolute liar, we could have beat him. but a lot of us in Milwaukee didn't vote. This is Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson, a few weeks ago. Which I listened to what he had to say.
I couldn't care less if he's upset. I'm concerned about my children, my grandchildren, and the fact that we are stealing from them. We are stealing from our children and grandchildren. $37 trillion in debt, and we're going to add to it as Republicans? That is unacceptable. And that's why there's no way I'm going to vote for this bill in its current form.
Really?
I couldn't.
Senator Ron Johnson said, there's no way I'm going to vote for this bill, Mustafa. Today he did. Today he did. He's lying. And see, here's the other thing that I need people to understand. Republicans love talking about how Democrats, how they just caused the debt to increase. Go to my iPad, at least. Y'all, this is a graphic right here that shows you what happens with the debt when there are Republicans and Democrats. If you look at the blue is obviously Democrat, the red is Republican. Relatively flat under Jimmy Carter, slight increases under Bill Clinton. Every year under Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush, the debt went up. Under George W. Bush, debt went up. You saw Barack Obama, how you saw the debt went up, it went down, it went up. You saw Trump up, 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 up. You saw Biden, how it went this is 2021, 2023. You see that with Biden, you see that. But the reality is that the numbers don't lie. You've had more Democrat presidents in the past 40 years that cut the federal deficit than increased it. Not one single Republican president in the last 40 years cut the federal deficit, Mustafa. Not one. So the so-called party of fiscal responsibility in budget hawks, they have not had a president, Reagan, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, Donald Trump. 4 Republican presidents, the deficit has never been cut under those 4. That is not the case with Democratic presidents. You've actually seen a cut in the federal deficit.
You know, it reminds me of that quote that says, I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. You know, they talk a good game, but when you actually look at the numbers, when you actually look at the facts, then that tells you what what's really playing out. So whether it is in relationship to the deficit that continues to go up under Republican leadership, that's one part of the equation. Or if you look at the economy, we know that when Democrats are in control, that in the president, that the economy continues to grow and continues to thrive. But unfortunately, when Republicans are there, they end up messing it up, and then Democrats have to come back in. So that's not, being in favor of Democrats or Republicans. That's just the facts, because people get all twisted around a D and an R type of naming instead of just looking at what do the facts tell us. And when you look at the facts, the economy is stronger underneath the Democrats, and the debt doesn't continue to increase at the same level as it does under Republicans. So that's why that quote always comes back to me, because people will talk a good game. But, whenever you actually pull back the veneer, then you find out what the truth actually is. And unfortunately, enough people are not willing to actually do a tiny bit of research to just answer the basic questions of, is what this person is sharing with me truthful, or is it misleading? Is it full of disinformation and misinformation? And we just got to change that paradigm if we actually want to be able to, better utilize our votes. There's so many people just give people their votes who say the right things without taking a look and saying, is this truthful? And not only is this truthful, but the actions that they end up doing, have they helped my community be in a better position, or have they held us, where we are, or even actually taken us back in many instances?
Let me also say this here before I go to Randy, and also we have another member, I believe, that is Amelia Sykes of Ohio, who's going to be coming up next, the CBC member. And that if you're watching or listening to us and you call United States Senator, it's too late. They already voted. They already voted, okay? Unless the House bill looks drastically different, it's gonna go back to the Senate. And so our focus right now is on the House, not the U.S. Senate. So right now, you're wasting time calling United States Senator. We need you calling House members. That's what we need you to do. And again, this is how you are to refocus your energy. Calling a Democratic House member right now, Randy, is a waste of time. You should be, but if people who are watching or listening are represented by a Democrat, they're going to vote against it. You have to target the people who could actually kill the bill, and that's a House Republican. Leader Jeffries said we just need 4 Republicans to vote no.
Right. And we need to inundate them. We need to inundate them. We have the power, and then, and I appreciate just how you outlined and showed, and you showed all the people that were possible, that we can get them to flip, and we only need 4. That should let us know that there's an opportunity here. And I can't sleep at night if I don't feel like I tried, not with something this major, not with something that affects all of our families. It certainly affects me. And so, let's again be filled with hope and not give up, because what they want, part of the reason that they move so quickly and do so much every single day, it almost seems like chaos, is to keep us numb and to make us feel as if we don't have any control. And I know that, and I'm one of those, we 92%ers talk about we tried our best, but we are where we are right now, and we still have to continue to fight some, and so we can have the best lives possible. This is scary right here. This is some major issue. And I hope people are understanding how big this is and how long the repercussions will go on if we don't try to make a difference right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, folks, we're going to do this here. We're going to go back to the House Rules Committee. Here's the deal. I know this member's time should be up real soon. And next up, again, it's going to be Congresswoman Emilia Sykes, who is from Ohio. Let's go back to the House Rules Committee.
So much work left to do to address food insecurity, malnutrition, and hunger. This bill cuts benefits that put food on the table for working families. Congress authorized tax credits for clean wind and solar power because transitioning to cheap, reliable, renewable energy sources will create jobs and power our homes. During a historic heat wave that is driving up electricity costs, this bill sunsets those tax credits. And as millions of families struggle to make ends meet, this bill explodes the deficit by providing trillions of dollars in tax cuts to corporations and the Americans who need the support the least. This Republican bill will hurt workers. It will hurt the American people. It will hurt the economy, and it will set us back instead of moving us forward. It is why it is so damaging and so hurtful to everyone that we have the privilege of representing. That's why I'll be voting no against it, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Menendez. Representative Sykes, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairwoman Fox, Ranking Member McGovern, and to all the members of this committee. Thank you for allowing me to come and testify before you today. Just a few weeks ago, we were gathered here to debate the House version of this reconciliation bill, with many of us staying up most of the night fighting for the opportunity to advocate for our constituents. Thank you for welcoming me back for the second time to the Rules Committee. My colleagues and I offered amendments to strike the cruel and harmful provisions in this bill that would raise costs for Americans, including our most vulnerable individuals and families who simply cannot afford to spend another dollar to even feed themselves, much less pay for a billionaire tax cut. A few weeks ago, the Republicans on this committee and in committees across the House voted against every single one of our amendments that would restore benefits to their constituents and lower costs, and voted to pass this legislation on the House floor. Last night, Senate Republicans voted against similar amendments despite constituents, businesses, and hospitals in their states begging them to cut these awful provisions, and yet they voted to pass this heartless bill on Senate floor. I've said before, there are no coincidences in Congress, and it is clear that this legislation and those who vote for it not only intentionally plan to cut health care for millions of Americans, but do so with determination. But we're determined too. So here I am, just a Congresswoman standing in front of Rules Committee, offering amendments that would prevent the devastation we all know this bill will cause for our constituents. including my amendment to strike the section of this bill that would cut Medicaid by $930 billion, an increase from the $880 billion from just a couple of weeks ago. In my district, Medicaid means an opportunity to live, and that is what I'm fighting for today. Nationwide and in Ohio, about 40% of births are covered under Medicaid. And for Black women in Ohio, Medicaid covers 71.5% of births. In Ohio, we have some of the highest infant mortality rates in the entire country. And for Black women and for Black babies, deaths are even higher than their white counterparts, upwards of 3 to 4 times higher. It is no surprise then that Medicaid expansion reduced maternal mortality in the states that expanded it, like Ohio. This is literally life-saving coverage. And yet this bill threatens to take health care away from an estimated 17 million people, including nearly 500,000 Ohioans. Worse still, this bill doesn't just take away health care from vulnerable families, especially in rural areas, it also defunds trusted providers in our communities, including in districts represented by Republicans. I'm talking about Planned Parenthood. Last week, we saw the Supreme Court rule that states could eliminate Medicaid reimbursement for the providers they disagreed with. This is clearly a political decision aimed at creating a nationwide abortion ban, but will have far-reaching consequences beyond access to abortion care. You should be able to see the qualified doctor that you trust and go to Planned Parenthood and get screened for cancer, receive birth control, and get a checkup. And this bill would prohibit Medicaid reimbursements at Planned Parenthood for all states. This will absolutely cause clinics to close, clinics like the one in Akron, which is one of the most active in the state, where people will go to get the low-cost care that they need. Well, you may be thinking, in my district, we are blessed to have several outstanding hospital systems. Other parts of the country are not as fortunate, particularly many of the rural areas, as my Republican colleagues represent. But this bill makes cuts to Medicaid at the provider level, cutting provider taxes and state-directed payments that allow states to fund their Medicaid program. In Ohio, this will be upwards of $16 billion. This means reduced services and hospital closures, which leads me to another group of people who will be impacted by this bill: the 22 million healthcare workers whose jobs are on the line. This includes more than 30,000 people in my district whose livelihoods are connected to the healthcare industry. Our hospital systems are our largest employers. Our local economy would be decimated if significant population of healthcare providers are suddenly unemployed. And for what? A $930 billion cut to the healthcare system. Also, billionaires can get a $910 billion cut to their taxes. Again, heartless. Now, I'm sure there's someone running the math out there trying to figure out exactly how much this bill is going to cost our rural hospitals, but it doesn't take a genius to know that $50 billion added to the Senate bill is not enough. Madam Chair, our seniors rely on Medicaid, and many of them as their primary way in which they get long-term care. And I don't think that most people went into this election season thinking that the mandate was that their grandmothers would be kicked out of their nursing homes. Yet, it is estimated that this bill could cause 1 out of every 4 nursing homes to close. And so I'm mortified that this bill has passed the Senate and is poised to pass the House again. To stem this devastation, I'm offering an amendment to strike the entire section addressing Medicaid from this bill. Again, it does not have to be this way. We do not have to cut health care for millions. Hospitals do not need to close, and people do not need to lose their jobs. As I close, I want to say that just before midnight in the state of Ohio, Governor Mike DeWine signed the state's biennium budget. Among many of its provisions, there was trigger language to eliminate Medicaid expansion and significant changes to funding for SNAP programs. By 5 o'clock, I received an email from the CEO from the Akron-Canton Regional Food Bank, and this is what the email said. Currently, 1 in 7 people in our community may be struggling with hunger. That's more than 200,000 of our neighbors. As our community continues to navigate economic hardships related to rising costs, we expect more individuals and families to turn for us for support. Amelia, our community deserves access to safe, nourishing food, and our food bank needs additional support to meet this increased need. That's why we are looking to compassionate supporters like you who will refuse to let our neighbors go hungry. Will you make a gift today? On behalf of the food banks and the Ohioans we serve every day, thank you for your generous and unfailing support during this critical time. Well, Dan, this is what I'm doing to stand up for the 200,000 people in our community, refusing to go away silently, allowing Republicans to take away food access to hungry people. Even more disappointing than anything else, the tie-breaking vote to pass the bill out of the Senate came from Ohio's own Vice President, J.D. Vance. He voted against the will against 3 million people who are on Medicaid in Ohio. That's 25% of the population. 1.4 million who look for food assistance. $9 billion in payments to hospital systems, the potential closure of 11 rural hospitals in our state. That is what our vice president voted for the great state of Ohio. Mind you, a red state. So I'm under no illusion that you will accept any of the 6 amendments that I'm offering to lower our taxes, to promote work, expand earned income tax credit, to continue to support and expand American manufacturing. But nonetheless, I am grateful for the opportunity to sit here to advocate for my community, for the state of Ohio and all Americans. So again, thank you for the opportunity to speak. And Madam Chair, I yield back.
All right, folks. We appreciate, first of all, everybody being on today's show. We want to thank Mustafa, Randy, and Joe for being on the panel, sticking with us. I know we went over our time, but we really wanted to take this entire show and really walk you through what's been going on, walk you through what is happening, and understand. Again, earlier today, shortly around noon, United States Senate, 50-50 tie, 3 Republicans voted against Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill that Bishop William Barber and others call a big, ugly, dangerous bill. J.D. Vance comes in and breaks the tie, okay? We know that happened a lot with Vice President Kamala Harris breaking ties in the Senate. The House passed a different version. Now the bill goes back to the House. Now they have what is called a House-Senate conference where they're resolving the differences. So it's an issue in the House right now because a lot of the hardcore conservatives, they want to see more cuts from this. And trust me, they want to see more Medicaid cuts. They want to see more cuts to food. They want to see more cuts to low income and working class people. And so if House Democratic Leader Jeffries said that if four Republicans in the House vote against this bill, it is dead. Now you got to remember, Democrats are impacted because 3 House Democrats died. Okay, Jerry Connolly, Garcia, as well as Sylvester Turner. So the margins have changed, and so that's the issue. But if four Republicans vote against this, the bill dies. And so you heard DNC Chair Ken Martin as well as Speaker Jeffries say that they are targeting what they call 35 vulnerable House Republicans. And these are the 35 that they are targeting. They're targeting them because they are in vulnerable districts. And so they may want to appease Donald Trump, but they also don't want to lose their position. And so these are the 36, drop the lower third. You see the number right there. They say this is to save Medicaid, but it really also don't hurt poor people, people with food insecurity. The number is 202-225-3121, 202-225-3121. You heard me say that you need to, how to check to see who's your member of Congress. I need you to go to Google, type in how to find your member of Congress. What you then do is, what you'll see is, you see congress.gov, you click that right there, find your member right there, you type in your zip code, and then it will show you who your member of Congress is. I want to do this here. I want to quickly go back to the committee. Here's Congresswoman Jahana Hayes answering questions from Senator Jim McGovern, Congressman Jim McGovern.
That could absorb the amount of cost sharing that will be put back on them. And even when we talk about, I talk about it ad nauseum, cuts to SNAP and how it will harm children. What many people don't understand is that when students lose their SNAP benefits, they are no longer automatically eligible for free or reduced lunch. So those school districts no longer get those CEP, community eligibility provision, the reimbursements that they get. So local districts will also have to absorb those costs. So it's not just one thing that governors and states have to worry about recovering funds for. It is all of these things at the same time. And I wish that there were some Republicans in the room to even listen, because even if they don't make it in order, even if they don't vote for it, I want them to go to bed tonight with that on their heart.
But there's an additional issue that needs to be discussed in addition to?
We're going to do. First of all, give me a 2-box. So we're going to end our show. We're going to keep though the feed going. If you want to see Truth Talks, there's a separate live feed going with Truth Talks. And again, I know we're carrying that, but this is too important. I need you to hear what's going on Capitol Hill. I don't know, ain't nobody else in black media covering this, and these are CBC members who are talking. So do this here. If you want to support what we do, join our Bring the Funk fan club to give via Cash App. Again, nobody else in black-owned media is doing what we're doing right now. No, give me a 2-box, y'all. Give me a 2-box. I need to hear it going while I'm showing this. And so support us with Cash App. This is the QR code to support us with Cash App, where if you want to support us with Cash App, use this. Cash App changed the rules, so we don't have a direct account. But if you want to support us via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. This is what you're seeing on your screen right now. No, don't show me. Show the hearing. Thank you very much. Now, there we go. Stripe QR code. Let's show that right now. Keep the hearing going while I'm talking. The hearing go while I'm talking. Stripe QR code, Cash App. This is how you have access to it right here. Then if you want to support us, can we please show the Stripe? Thank you very much. So to give us via Cash App, this is the Stripe QR code. You'll see it right here. Checks and money orders, make them payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Then you send them to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Also, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. So get my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. All proceeds of that book go right into the show. Get the audio version on Audible. And so get that. If you also want us to get our black-owned products, please do so. Do so by going to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Support our black-owned products. Get your swag. Roland Martin Unfiltered, Black Star Network gear, rolandmartin.creator-spring.com. If you ordered shirts and you have not gotten products, go to rolandsmartin.com, send us an email so we can follow up with you to help you get your products, okay? And don't forget, download the app Fanbase. If you want to invest in Fanbase, Isaac Hayes III announced today they've hit $12.5 million. The goal is to raise $17 million. To get more information, go to starengine.com/Fanbase. I'll see you tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go back to the House hearing where the House Rules Committee is still discussing this big, ugly, dangerous bill. I'll see you all tomorrow.